Hey, Billy, you're a very Caucasian-looking dude. So
Yeah.
I'm imagining when people meet you, they just they think white dude, right? So my curiosity is, do other white people ever come up to you in confidence and assume like, oh, you're one of us? Oh, I can be racist around you because you're my people, and I have to hide my my racist thoughts.
I get that all the time.
Does that happen?
Seriously?
Yeah, no, I do for
Really?
sure. I mean, I get
Holy
people.
tell me, both of you guys tell me your stories. I'm really interested. Holy
I think both things are probably in play there, because I mean, certain generations, like when I did work with like World War II veterans and Korean War veterans, the mindset was very different. There's a lot more manners, but also a lot more just kind of fixed thinking, as opposed to Vietnam era vets. There's a lot of anger and resentment, and still some very fixed thinking. And then my OAF guys and Afghanistan, Iraq guys, there's the thinking seems to be a bit more flexible, just kind of with the different generations. But then there's other deficits that they don't have, like manners.
That's a good question. First of all, at least prison in California is not rehabilitation. Like, we're just locked up.
We've been lied to.
It's 99% punishment.
Yeah, like you're just punished, and then also within that, you get to like learn how to do the craft of being a criminal even better, because you get to resource with all these other guys that are doing it, figure out how you messed up, how you can do it better. So
Hello, family and friends. Welcome to another Talks with Liem. This is available to the billions around the world on YouTube in 4K and audio streaming services like Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. And now onto the podcast.
Welcome to the Talks with Liem podcast.
All right, so today we have Renee, who's a LCSW. I'm just gonna say she's a psychologist, and then we have Billy, who's
We're not allowed to.
I'm allowed to. She can't stop me,
I mean, I'm not licensed as a psychologist, so.
but you can't stop me from saying it.
Wait, psychologists can prescribe drugs? Is that
Psychiatrists.
psychiatrist?
Yeah.
So there's a difference between those two things.
And in some states with certain regulations, LCSWs can prescribe as well.
Oh, but
Ooh.
not here.
Not here. Not in Nevada.
Okay.
And then we also have Billy, who you've done this podcast before.
Billy.
You're working currently on your bachelor's degree or master's degree.
I just graduated. I just finished last week for my
Congratulations, man.
Nice.
Thank you. I got my bachelor's in psychology, and then I start my master's in social work in August.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And then your goal, if I remember correctly, you're hoping to open a clinic or a practice?
I'm going to open a treatment center for substance use disorder, yeah.
And then is that targeted towards current inmates or just in general, just substance abuse?
It's going to be just substance use disorder, and depending on how it goes down, it might be taking people who are getting off on parole and probation, and kind of like a halfway out type situation, but then also going to be taking private insurance because going to need that money. So
Yeah, pay the bills.
Yeah. So I did this. I set up this podcast for you and Renee because I think you guys will have some interesting connecting interests and stories where Billy has spent about 5 years in prison, and we talked about that in depth on the podcast that Billy and I did, where I asked him, like, how do you smuggle drugs in? What is race wars in prisons? Why is that? Why does that happen? What's like some of the interesting things was his side of showing that the race war, you have like I forget the word you called it. There's like one person, the head of each race.
Yeah, I got like the shot caller.
Yeah, the shot caller. So then that was a pretty interesting story. So anyways, if we want to just kind of start randomly, I don't know what topic you guys want to start on. I don't know if psychology, if you want to start with psychology with prison, or if Billy, if you want to start with psychology questions for Renee.
Social work questions.
Social work questions.
It's all the same.
Yeah, I could just start asking questions. I got tons. So nice.
Do it.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So what school did you go to, and kind of like what specialty in social work did you do whenever you got educated?
So I got my MSW at UNLV here in Las Vegas. Are you in Nevada? Where are you?
Well, right now I'm in mainland Mexico, down in the state of Colima.
Okay.
But I'm centered in San Diego, up in the States.
Okay, so you're California. Is that
Yeah.
better? Okay. So yeah, I went to UNLV here and got my license LCSW here in Nevada. And I know our licensing laws are a little bit different than California's. I want to say California is actually a little bit more lenient. Nevada's one of the most strict states in terms of licensing for providers, which is annoying.
What do you think they're trying to keep out? If there's some bar to pass,
I don't know. I don't, they're just being dicks. I don't know. I'm not sure because it makes it difficult, like there's a huge provider shortage in Nevada.
Like everywhere, probably.
Yeah, in pretty much any field. I mean, medical providers, mental health providers, just about everywhere.
So what typically knocks people out of qualification? Is it not being able to pass a test, or having a history or a background, or?
A lot of times it's just our requirements for education and internship are a little more longer, a little more stringent and longer. So I'm not sure what California's are, but for Nevada's, we have 4 different tiers of social work licensure. So at the bachelor's level, if you have your bachelor's in social work, you can become an LSW. You take a licensing exam and you become licensed with that. And you can't really do anything with that aside from work for like Department of Public Services or something like that. Just like case management stuff. Once you have your master's, you can apply for your MSW, which gives you a little bit more flexibility. You can apply for a lot more stuff. And then once you have that, you can apply for your internship license. So it's a separate license that says that you are allowed to work on your internship hours. So that's annoying. And then we have to get, I want to say 3,000 supervised hours.
Yeah.
That you
3,000 hours. That sounds like a lot.
It does. It's really, it's not like for me, I was working 3-4 jobs straight out of college anyway. So
Is that over a year of 40 hours a week?
So they won't let you do it in less than 2 years.
Okay, so over 2 years of...
Yeah, you have like between 2 to, I think, like 5 years or something like that, 2 to 4 years, in which you have to fulfill all those hours. And it's like a total of 3,000 hours. 2,000 of those hours have to be clinical work. So like as social workers, which I'm sure like you've already kind of seen, it's a whole like junk drawer of responsibilities. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of like case management stuff, and then there's like, the clinical stuff that's like the fun stuff, like the actual therapeutic interventions and stuff like that. But you have to prove that you're doing both.
Gotcha.
And then once you fulfill the clinical licensure requirements, you can apply for the clinical license. You have to take another exam, and then you get that license. So that's the process in a nutshell. Have fun.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's just the anxiety is just like creeping as you say that. But it's like anything else, you just take it one step at a time. I know California is a little bit different, but not much. Like I know the 3,000 hours, it's the same. And I think here we call it associate social worker. And that's like what you apply for to become, then you're able to become an intern and start accruing your hours with the supervisor. So yeah, it's like, it's a long road even after I get my education. So I'm in the 3-year master's program, and then I do that. And then after that, like she was saying, it's at least another 2 years until I become licensed. But I'm also kind of like working in the field right now. Like this summer, I'm working at a treatment facility just as a case manager, counselor. And so I've kind of got some experience in the field already, and I'll continue doing that throughout school and after too. So yeah, it's a lot. And then as far as like the legal, like if you're allowed to be a felon and stuff, so many people were like, oh yeah, that's what you want to do. You probably shouldn't do that because you're a felon. And like, if I would have listened to any of them, I wouldn't be where I am today, which is pretty much like I'm good to go. It's been 10 years since my last thing. There's this place in San Diego called, what is it called? I forget the
In
name.
Cahoots.
I forget the name of it right now, but it's kind of like an organization that helps you like clear your record.
Oh,
And so they're kind of helping me like get old felonies like reduced to misdemeanors based on that I've been like in good standing, good citizen for like 10 years. And so yeah, I mean, I have to do a background check whenever I do my internships for school and stuff, but a lot of those too, like if you do come up, like something's going on, they'll call you in for an interview
yeah.
and they'll call all your references and the resources. And I got tons of people in the last 10 years that I've been friends with, I've worked with, that
Yeah.
like, can say this is what this guy's been doing. And
So a criminal record is kind of like a credit report in that you can go back and fight items and.
I think it's even, I'm going to say yes, and it's even better because I'm in California. So like
Yeah.
California, like now, as long as you're off parole,
Yeah.
you can like vote as a felon. I don't know if it's like that anywhere else because it didn't used to be like that in California. So
Yeah.
they're starting to get rights back, and then also starting to look at like people's crimes too, is what they did to either include them in something or exclude them. So
Yeah. Well, so I mean, obviously, you're a great example of somebody who's had a troubled history, but are now doing great things. So that's cool that you're able to overcome that stigma or that record, right? Because that's the public perception is that we think, oh, once you get a felony, that like you say, it eliminates you from so many opportunities and possibilities. So that's awesome to hear that you're able to do that nonetheless.
yeah, and the reality of it is like all of the people that I was hanging out with back in my heyday and was going in and out of prison with, like most of them, they're still doing what they were doing, or they're doing something similar. So it makes sense to why it's like, oh, we have to like check on people, but we also need to be able to make sure we have that room for whenever people do want to grow out of like old behaviors and recreate themselves, to be able to give them that opportunity. And luckily, like it's possible because I'm living with that. So
that's cool, man.
Would you say that you've had a lot of help to try and like help on this journey as opposed to like roadblocks? Because it seems like the system that we have set up is very punitive, and it's not, as much as we like to say that we're sending people to prison for like rehabilitation, it's not. Like, I guess for your experience, what are some of the things that like the roadblocks that you've had, and like the opportunities that you've had?
That's a good question. First of all, at least prison in California is not rehabilitation. Like we're just locked up.
We've been lied to.
It's 99% punishment.
Yeah, like you're just punished, and then also within that, you get to like learn how to do the craft of being a criminal even better, because you get to resource with all these other guys that are doing it, figure out how you messed up, how you can do it better. So yeah, that's not really a thing. But I mean, my answer is it depends, and it depends on if you want it or not. So I have been through the system for years. Started getting locked up when I was like 17. Last time I got out, 29. And so I had been through like rehabs and the system many times. And this last time I decided like, I want to go ahead and I'm going to do this. I'm going to like make this happen. I had decided that before and failed, but, and I think all those times before, some of those times before when I failed, that like helped me, just like I was saying, become a better criminal, like figure out how to like do this the right way. Figure out my roadblocks. I mean, the biggest roadblock is for me was just the straight addiction. Like addiction is pretty tough. Like whenever you don't have coping skills for something and you're going through like extreme emotional, mental, and physical like hardships, and you have something that will take care of it like right now, the act of like not taking care of it right now and like taking the harder road, just like anything else in life, like taking the harder road that like comes with better goals or better rewards. It's difficult, it's tough battle. Like, oh, I have to like learn how to like introspectively look at myself and like think about how what I'm doing is affecting other people rather than like just get high and forget about it. Like, and I know it sounds like super easy if somebody has their stuff together. But if you don't have those coping skills and you weren't taught those coping skills, learning them as an adult is pretty difficult.
Yeah. So for anybody watching right now or listening, if you could hit like and subscribe, that will help you overcome addiction. You can hit that.
Learn
you can hit
coping
the like button
skills.
like 18 times, like a crackhead.
Compulsively hit the like button and you're good to go.
Yes. No, but seriously, is there? So if somebody is addicted to a drug, what would be a coping skill? You know, because if you're having hard times and you turn to drugs, that'll distract you from your problems. But what would you say? You know, what is a coping? You know, for somebody who's I have no idea what's going on. Like, if I find myself addicted to.
Personally for me, and it's different for different people, but personally for me, what I had to do was I had to put people in my life that would tell me things that I didn't want to hear, but I needed to hear. Because before, it's like if you told me something that was like criticism, like I was like, fuck you, I'm gonna do whatever I want. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I'm a badass or whatever it was. But then whenever I was realizing like I've got some serious like growing to do and things that I don't know, I had to like seek out people who were good enough friends that would be like, hey dude, you're kind of fucking up right here with this. Like you need to make sure that you show up to work every day on time. And if you don't, and your boss yells at you, like bite the bullet and say, okay, I'll do better next time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, that was like, I mean, there's so many things to answer that question, but the one thing that really helped me was putting people in my life that would kind of call me out on my shit and like being humble enough to like accepting that and listening to it.
Interesting.
Was there a specific way that they told you? Like, were they empathetic when they told you that?
I guess for some people they would need that, but no, for me it was like, hey, you fucking dumbass. Like you don't need to be hanging out over where you used to get high and like hanging out with the chick that you used to like bang whenever you were doing drugs. Like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. So that's what I needed, because that's kind of like my personality. But yeah, I could see somebody who has a different personality maybe needing a softer touch.
I think from my experience, it seems like the tough love is more effective, because it's almost like if you're looking at, you're having this battle with yourself, right? Like there's the long-term goals me that wants a better life and that wants like, you know, to not be fucking up all the time. And then there's the short-term me that knows I can fix this real quick. And it's like you're having an argument between those two people. And if short-term me isn't going to take like kindly or isn't going to be responsive to a gentle touch, then you have to be like, look, dumbass.
Yeah.
Like what happened last time you did this? You ended up in some real shit. So maybe not do that. Oh, are we still doing the 10-minute no cussing thing?
We try to.
Sorry.
Sorry.
You guys
It's
are
past 10 minutes, right?
What's it say on the there should be a timer over there.
Oh yeah, we're at 20 minutes.
Okay, we're 20
cool,
minutes in.
solid.
Oh, okay, cool.
We're fucking good.
Time flies when you're not in prison.
I don't know if this is related to that or this is so. When I was 18, I graduated high school. Then I spent 6 months doing nothing, and then it was my mom's boyfriend Scott who.
Wait, did you play basketball or video games or anything?
Video games. I think Counter-Strike. I was playing like I don't know, probably 14 hours a day. And then one day Scott, who I really respected him because he explained things to me, like he explained things well. It wasn't a, hey, go do this, or he would just say, hey, this is how the world works. This is what I've seen in my life, and this is just what I'm suggesting to you. But the way he said it, where about 6 months after high school, I wasn't doing anything at all, and he just said, hey, Liem, by the way, you're just not doing anything with your life. Do you have a plan? Like, are you going to go to college? Are you going to do something? And it actually hit me. Like, I remember being so depressed, actually, or I would call it depressed, where I slept for 14 hours straight. I was like, fuck, I really respect this guy. Mm-hmm. And he was calm about it. He's just like, hey, you're not doing anything with your life. And right then I changed my whole life around. I went to go sign up for college, and I've been hitting software engineering, computers since that day. Mm-hmm. So that was something that hit me. Or how old am I? I'm 40 now. So since that day, like it's driven me.
Yeah. How important do you think it was that you had respect for him? Like, if somebody that you didn't really care about told you the same thing, do you think you would have had a similar response?
My theory is because the respect, I think, came from his empathy and logic, both. For me, I think if you don't have both, I don't respect you as much, because that's just me though. That's why I think when you guys are saying having someone tough and telling you what to do may work better, but I was just bringing up my story.
And I think it depends on your relationship with that person, right? Like if you know that the people in your life that are saying these things to you that might be a little harsh, if they genuinely care about you and they know where you've been and they've seen like how bad things can get for you if you just keep doing the same thing, that might have more impact than like somebody you don't know. And also, like when you're at the point where you're having that discussion with yourself, or like you were talking about, the willingness to do that, having the humility to be like, oh yeah, you know what, I am fucking up. That takes a conscious decision to have that openness and that willingness, and that also shows that you have respect for that version of yourself. That's like the long-term version of yourself. Like you've had some success, like you've seen yourself achieve a couple of things, or like, hey, I did this for a while before and I really was successful at it. I know I can do it. I just need to keep doing it. And you actually have that respect for yourself.
Yeah, but Liem gets mad at me because I'm a low empathy.
Well, it's a low
Maybe
empathy.
he doesn't respect you.
He definitely doesn't respect me.
No, I tell you.
You just light a match over here and run away.
I tell you that I give you the answers to the questions that you have when you're trying to give me advice on my life, and I tell you that it wouldn't work because I'm doing these things. I'm doing A, B, C, and D, and then you don't listen. So it's like we're having.
Listen, yeah.
See, so it's just. Anyway, so that's our.
Oh no,
our
this is fun.
problem.
Let's keep doing this.
Have two psychologists to look at this.
I don't do couples work, by the way.
I want to go back and say, because the question was like, did they say it to you in a nice way, or did they say it to you in a bad way? And for me, like who I was at that time, being kind of like a criminal in and out of prison, I respected people who were kind of gnarly and like hardcore. And so, yeah, they told me in a gnarly way, and I heard that. But I think that's not so much what was important. What was important and what the common thread is that works in that is coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
Like if I believe that like you're coming from a place of love, then I'll be able to listen to your criticism of me. Whether it's like a velvet glove or an iron fist. So that's probably the common thread more than if it's said like in a nice or mean way.
What about how do compliments affect you? Because your hair looks awesome. I'm digging your hair.
Oh, I love compliments.
Beard's on point, looking sharp.
Yeah, it is. Dude, I'm so critical of myself. So yeah, whenever I get outside compliments, I'm like, yeah, rad, that's cool. Like, it only lasts for a little bit, and then I'm constantly like, okay, like what am I doing wrong here? I kind of like being critical because then I can use that to grow. So
yeah.
But thank you. Thank you for that compliment.
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice.
You're kind of shining right now because I did put a little bit of oil on it this morning.
Nice. Do you guys find there's a difference between generations? Because I run a meetup group and I have people of different age. I'm 45, but I have people down to their early 20s that are all getting together for social activities like coffee or happy hour or something, right? Mm-hmm. Is toughness received differently by different generations, or is that just me being ageist?
I don't know. I mean, I've worked with a pretty broad spectrum. Mm-hmm. I would say that there's a lot of ideologies that do shift with generations. I think the younger generations have a little more entitlement, mm-hmm. but in terms of like the language of feedback, I don't know that it does, because I also work with a very specific population, mm-hmm. Working with vets, and that kind of language is just something that most of them are more accustomed to. Is the kind
tough
of
love?
Yeah, the tough love and
the drill instructor.
Yeah. So I've had, all ages.
Yeah.
That seem to respond pretty well to similar communication, but that's also a kind of specific population.
Yeah, I think it's more so like there might be a difference between generations, but I think it's more so like personality and like family of origin, like kind of who you inherently are that's like long term, and then like what kind of family you grew up in. Like in your family, did you guys scream and yell at each other all the time? Or were you guys like very reserved and quiet? The person whose family screamed all the time, they aren't bothered by it because they're used to it. So yeah, I think it's more like that kind of stuff that makes a bigger difference. But as far as generationally, seems to be a little bit more sensitive people that are coming of age more recently. So that's kind of something that I've noticed. But that comes with its positives and negatives too. Like, I mean, I know people who are older dealing with issues like homosexuality. They have much harder times than people who are younger, because people who are younger, more of society as a whole accepts that. So it's easier for them to like come into that and grow into that sooner. So yeah, there's positives and negatives about it.
Yeah, I think the older we get, the more resistant to change we are.
Yeah.
And that might be a generational thing. Like I would be curious to see how, the younger generations that are just so accustomed to everything changing so quickly, if that like carries on when they get older. But I think in general, like it's the older we get, the more we're just like, okay, things need to just like, I like it this way.
Yeah. No, there's going to be, in the future, there's going to be some population of 60-year-olds that are still tweeting.
Yeah.
When everybody else has moved on to something else.
I haven't tweeted ever.
When you said generational, as in just the 30-year-olds now that when they hit 50, they're going to be more hard-headed, or were you saying generationally, the 50-year-olds of today versus the 50-year-olds of in 20 years? Were you trying to say that they'll be different hard-headedly because of
old people suck now, or old people of the future will suck?
Like old people always suck. Well, I think both things are probably in play there, because I mean certain generations, like when I work with when I did work with like World War II veterans and Korean War veterans, the mindset was very different. There's a lot more manners, but also a lot more just kind of fixed thinking, as opposed to Vietnam era vets. There's a lot of anger and resentment. And still some very fixed thinking. And then, my OEF guys and, Afghanistan, Iraq guys, there's the thinking seems to be a bit more flexible, just kind of with the different generations. But then there's other deficits that they don't have, like manners. So I think that generationally there's different just mindsets just based on like what was going on in the world as you grew up. Like family of origin also very, very important, influences how we think. But one of my curiosities is just like, as we age, just in general, does our thinking become more fixed?
You beautifully answered my question. I think when I asked the question, I didn't know how to ask it, and you beautifully asked exactly what I was looking for.
Oh, okay. I was hoping to. I'm also trying to gesture a lot with my nails just to be distracting. Because they're very pretty today.
Lovely.
So
Put them
generation
near your face a lot.
So generationally, I guess the Afghanistan generation how much are you dealing with that now, and then what do you see? I don't know what geopolitical wars has America been in what you will see next?
Oh, what's the next war?
No, not. What's the most? Is it only Afghanistan? I thought we've had.
I mean, we were there for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the issues now is like when guys went to World War II, on either front, it was very clear what you were doing. Even if you didn't have an understanding of like the geopolitical climate or exactly what was going on, it was like, we're the good guys, Nazis are the bad guys, and it was very clear when we won. And it was like a defined, like it was in a capsule. Like the war started, the war ended, and we don't have that now. We're fighting an idea.
Yeah.
And the war on terror. Okay, how do we know when we've won that?
So I think wear my shoes through the metal detector again.
Oh, well, you're in the wrong line at the airport, my friend, because I can wear them just fine.
In the VIP.
It has nothing to do with terror. That has everything to do with your boarding pass, sir.
It has to do with class.
Do you think there's is it just like with the internet age, is somehow more information, is that causing, I don't know, like, so I'm thinking Afghanistan before that, probably what was the biggest thing prior to that?
Iraq.
Iraq, and then before
Iraq a
that
couple
was,
times.
and then probably Vietnam.
What was the
Kuwait.
Gulf War?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
those two.
There's a lot of oil wars going on.
Yeah,
in the
first
Middle
time in
East.
Iraq.
So do you think there's is it mainly informational, or is it I don't know. I'm thinking each year, maybe, I don't even want to say generation, every 5 years, whether people question their government, whether they learn more about psychology, maybe society is allowing people, not allowing people, it's more okay to ask these things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you see generalities or things that patterns, I guess, through all that?
What do you mean? I'm not quite sure
Billy,
what
do
you're
you
asking.
understand Lim's question?
I did not the whole thing, but I was thinking like as far as people trusting the government, like what you were saying, Renee, like in World War II, we had like a clear vision, like this is exactly what we're doing. And then now it's like the Afghanistan, Iraq wars. It's like, okay, yeah, like we were fighting terrorists, but then also there was like some other stuff going on that like, why were we there? And like, are we here for our country or for some dudes to like make some money or like,
Where were those WMDs, by the way?
yeah, that's gotta be kind of frustrating to like kind of maybe have that question in your head, like, am I here to like help good people or like to make somebody money or what's going on?
Yeah.
I think we're in a much more complicated time for the average person, where you have a million information sources. You can go find anything you want to learn. Whereas if you're in World War II, you got a newspaper and
Yeah.
maybe a television.
Telegram.
Yeah, you get to listen to the radio, and some voice on the radio will tell you what's up.
I think that's an answer to my question. I think the question is kind of so vague, looking for a pattern, where I think there's too many things to look for a pattern. We're looking at society, how what's right or what's okay now, what wasn't okay then, what new news, data, outlets of information. So I think it's just too many pieces to find a pattern.
Yeah. Well, and we don't have a clear understanding of what is actual information and what's just garbage, and not that information sources were more trustworthy at one point, but they kind of were. Like when news organizations started out, they were not businesses. They were not for profit. The idea was we're going to spread information around the world, and they've become businesses. They've become, like since the first televised car chase, they've been, let's just promote something sexy that people will watch.
Oh, that was the moment?
There was a documentary I was watching.
Oh, okay.
And that was like one of the defining moments in like broadcast journalism.
Yeah.
Was like nobody gave a crap, but all of a sudden they're like, oh, let's film this car chase. And like their ratings went through the roof. And they were like, oh, okay. Like nobody knows who this guy is, but he's running from the police. Let's get a chopper out there. And
Oh, they televised a news car chase. Okay.
Because it's
Like-
exciting.
yeah, it's and like nobody cared before, but now all of a sudden, and that's when it like kind of turned over to one-upsmanship.
I could tell you in the like 96 or 97 or something, there was a big Hollywood bank robbery where these dudes went in with like machine guns and full body armor. And it was them with like this hours long standoff shootout, the tanks running into people's houses, and it was live real time. And, and I don't know if I'd like ditched class or what, but I was glued to the TV, because prior to that moment, nothing that fascinating had ever been reported live, to this, to a young man's eyes.
Yeah.
To see like, holy cow, look at these, this is better than an action movie. These dudes fighting 100 cops, and it was a crazy.
Yep. And now look how that translates into like people will spend hours just watching stuff that like really has nothing to do with them. Like that bank robbery didn't impact you at all.
No, it was 200 miles away. Yeah.
Yeah, there was like no real reason for you to be like, I need to know this, but you're interested and you're fascinated and you're like, ooh, this is cool. And these guys got guns and body armor and clown masks
action.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if the newscasters want to spin it that way, like, oh, this could happen to you.
Yeah.
and now it's relevant to you.
I see that happening to older people that are home watching the morning news. It's like this fear thing where they wake up, watch the news, and see all the things they need to be scared of. Like, I'm going to get hit crossing the street. There's a robbery going down, and people's houses are getting broken into. And it's this very, like, crime in your city.
I would say that happens to anybody who is glued to their phone.
Yeah, that's like everybody. I
Yeah,
was talking about this yesterday. Like, I choose not to watch the news, and I've had this conversation with people before. And like, well, you're supposed to like know what's going on, and you're supposed to like know what's happening around you. And it's like, no, I know what's going on in my life, and if I pay attention and put all my energy into what I'm doing and do the best that I can with what's in front of me, that's all I can do anyways. Even if I know like about this bank robbery like 2 cities away, like there's nothing I can do about it. Now it might be entertaining and distract me from what I have to do, and I might need that because I might need a little bit of a break from it. But
yeah,
I don't know. And you're right. I see, and it's not just old people. It's like everybody.
Yeah.
See, like this, you just pay attention to what happens, like on a whole, like people getting infected with like fear or hatred.
Yeah.
Usually it comes from paying attention to that rather than like what's going on like right now in front of me in my actual life with my actual relationships that I'm engaged in on a daily basis.
Yeah. Like most people that have, like, let's use like racist ideals, for example, that express these racist ideals.
Whoa, we just went racist.
Well, I mean, you're here, so, you know, it's going to come up. So,
Race gangs and
you know, what? It's relevant as the token white girl. But yeah, so like a lot of people that have these inherently racist ideas will say that they're not. They're making generalizations that they've heard from whatever they subscribe to get their information. And when they're actually having encounters one-on-one with an actual human, they'll say, oh, well, you know, that debunks this because I know this person and he's not like that. And so therefore I am not this bad thing, but they still hold those ideals. I don't know if that makes sense. But the people will develop these generalizations just based on just being
so
stuck
you could be
in
like
this.
generally racist, but then the teller at the bank is a Cuban guy. And you're like, oh, well, I'm fine talking to, you know, Juan or whoever.
Yeah.
So that I'm not racist.
Yeah, because your idea of somebody when they're face to face in front of you is very different than your idea of them when they're behind a screen and they're anonymous and you just know their demographics or something they said.
We should still build a giant wall at the border.
There is one. It's pretty big. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Does
There
it go
is
all the way
one.
across the border?
I don't think so.
Oh, the walls don't work if they're not complete.
Is that how walls work?
You need the whole wall. The Great Wall of China.
That brings up an interesting question. Like, what's more important, like us treating people as equals, like since we're talking about race, whenever we're face to face or on the computer or on the internet? Like, what's more important?
Well, I think it's important not to let those fake internet ideas infect your brain, right? To not change your mindset because you're reading some junk on Facebook.
Well, I'll maybe I'm gonna kind of use where you're starting. I think I see certain people that say they're not racist, and then when you hang out with them and you start to see certain things, I would classify them as maybe mildly racist.
So minor racism going on, yeah.
It's microaggressions.
But it's weird that they would go out of their way to say, well, I'm not racist. I like all races. And then you see the way they treat certain, or they will say certain things about certain races. They don't realize it.
Well, you have to believe you're not an asshole yourself, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what is...
But you show your ass when your guard is down. You know, like if we're hanging out and we're comfortable, I'm going to say more dumb shit than I am like at work or around people that I don't know that well. You know, because my guard is down and I'm going to show more of my true self. And like my biases will come out because I'm not intentionally trying to hide them.
Is there something, an easy way for someone to test if they're racist or not? Or
We need a racist test.
Right?
I don't know, like as in, it's weird.
Get them drunk.
I feel like
That's usually, like, when you see that shit come out.
I feel like in a workplace when you have a built, and for me, when working in an office of like, there was probably 500 people, it was probably 500, 200, I don't know. It was a pretty large office. and I would walk around and interact with a lot of people during work. I was probably not very productive at work, but a lot of people, I don't know how to explain. Maybe it's because I bring out certain personalities.
You bring out the racist in people.
I probably do. I don't.
Wait, you were walking around the office and getting racist jokes everywhere?
No. I would just start conversations, and somehow
Was it because you were wearing wooden shoes and a triangle hat or something?
I think it's just maybe I get conversation going, and like what you're saying, people get comfortable. And I don't know if it's whether I'm friendly or maybe I'm 5'2", and people are just like, oh, this guy's not.
You're not imposing at all.
Yeah. And they just kind of open up. I seem to get that a lot. And then I start asking questions about maybe their life, and then we start having conversations about where they went to the bank and met some Cuban guy or Puerto Rican, whatever it was that Emmett said. And then they start telling their story. Then I hear things. I'm like, this person seems like they're actually racist when they just said they weren't. And I don't know why. I seem to get that a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think you are very inquisitive, and the way that you probably in your workplace as well, because I like just from my observations, the way that you approach things, like even if you know that like you're seeking an answer from somebody that is like, you know, taboo or something, the way that you ask questions and the way that you approach things is very inquisitive and non-threatening. You know, so if you come up to someone and you're like, oh, are you a racist? They're going to be like, well, of course I'm not. You know, like, but if you're like, oh, hey, I went to this, you know, party the other night and everyone was wearing like white hoods. Have you been to one of those? They'll be like, oh yeah, totally. Like I think your approach is very non-threatening and can draw out some of that stuff. Because again, when people feel comfortable, and I think over time too, people just show their ass.
So if I had to, I guess the out of all those conversations I've had, I feel like there's a lot more racist people. When they say they aren't racist, it feels like fucking 75% of them are.
No, that's what you say when you're about to do some racist stuff.
You're saying they're not racist because they're the ones.
Yeah.
No,
Well, and
yeah.
here's like,
Yeah,
and you've probably seen this just because you're, this is probably weird that I'm just gesturing at a computer.
No, it works.
But like
Billy's over there.
in your studies, you're learning about bias,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, transference and countertransference and all of these things and how to identify your own biases. And I am always very wary of the person that says that they have no biases because they're full of shit.
Yeah.
Everybody has biases. I have biases.
Yeah.
We all have biases. Mother Teresa has bias. The fucking Buddha's got biases. Like we all do.
Fat bastard.
And if we're not willing to acknowledge that and look into it and maybe do something about it or see why, then like, how are you an authentic person?
I feel that on a personal level when I say cryptocurrency, because I research a lot of cryptocurrency and people ask for my advice, but I'm a terrible salesperson because I always say, hey, I'm biased because I'm a software engineer and I love this technology, but here's all the reasons where I think either you should invest or you shouldn't invest, or here's your life situation. And by me saying that I'm biased, people write me off right away. And I think I'm just being totally honest, and I'm a bad salesperson. So anyways, I
think it's just you're being a good person and looking out for other people. Like a lot of times not all salesmen, but a lot of salesmen, like they just want the money. They just want the bottom line, and they'll tell you whatever they need to tell you to get what they want. And you are not taking that approach. You're like, hey, there's also some risks, and like, so know that. So that's kind of,
I feel like for conversations speak for me, or for conversations, I'm terrible at making people believe me because I give every angle for them to either, I'm giving them every angle that I think they should know to make an educated decision. But yet, because I show them every angle, then they somehow feel that I don't know, they say I'm biased, or they think I'm biased, even though I'm trying to say, hey, I'm actually not biased because I'm giving you everything. So here's all the information.
Yeah. Well, and that's people's desire to have simple answers.
exactly.
You know,
You're
like-
in a close circle, and I bet your close circle, the people who appreciate that, they're like intelligent, free thinking, critical thinking people. I would guess, because those are the kind of people that appreciate that kind of information.
Yeah. but you're trying to give them the whole picture.
Yes.
And they're coming to you. They're like, hey, this kid just bought a Lamborghini on Bitcoin. I want to do that too. Show me how. And they think you have this like magic box.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, just push this button
Yeah.
and you're going to turn 30 cents into $3 million overnight. And that's not how it works.
At least 2 weeks.
At least 2 weeks.
Sorry, was my story on bias kind of similar with what you're getting at?
It's very similar. Like,
That's what I was thinking, like, because we were talking about racism and like, what is racism? And it's like, isn't racism just you treat somebody different because of the color of your skin?
Mm-hmm.
And so like for me, like I'm racist. Like if I see two people and like there's like a white guy and a black guy there, and I need to know the score to a basketball game that's going on, I ask the black dude every time. But I'm comfortable with that, and I'm okay with that. And like I think I do enough introspection to like check myself and make sure I don't treat people like that differently in an unfair way. But I'm also open to I might do that, and if I do. Like then I need to check that out and like make a change. And I think for your point, people saying that they're not, I think they're probably scared to even look that they have that in themselves because they're scared of it. And they don't even want to touch it. And they're like, no, I'm not racist. I don't even want to look at it. And like what's really, it's like, yeah, we have biases and we have stereotypes that we come in and we believe and because we have that, we have to have this like ongoing conversation with ourselves and other people if what we're doing is affecting people in a negative way because of the color of their skin or because of their culture or because of their gender, whatever it is.
Yeah. Hey Billy, you're a very Caucasian looking dude. So
Yeah.
I'm imagining when people meet you, they just they think white dude, right? So my curiosity is, do other white people ever come up to you in confidence and assume like, oh, you're one of us? Oh, I can be racist around you because you're my people, and I have to hide my my racist thoughts.
I get that shit all the time.
Does that happen?
Seriously?
Yeah, no, I do for sure. I mean, I get
Holy shit! Tell me, both of you guys tell me your stories. I'm really interested. Holy shit!
Liem doesn't get the whitey confidence.
No, I didn't even know this would exist for white people. I didn't know that.
No, but people come up and like talk about white people and like talk shit to you guys, I'm sure.
For me, it's more people are unsure of my.
No one knows what you are.
Yeah.
You're just a little mixed bag.
Yeah, so they're a lot of times they'll take a baby step into, oh, you're one of us Hispanic people, right? Or they go, oh, you're Asian. Oh man, and then they'll open about some of the stereotypes. Or
I would say in my younger years, yes, I think I was dealing with when I was younger, older Asians then. So say I was probably 10, 15 years old, and so 30 years old and 30 and 40 years old, that's who I was dealing with. And they would say stuff like, oh, those white people, they don't care about us Asians, or whatever they would say. And then I actually would try to not defend white people, but I would just try to say, hey, you don't know them. Like,
It's probably true though.
so
We talk shit about white people too.
nowadays that I'm older, I don't see that as much, but it's maybe we as a society has gotten, Asian society has gotten better. Asian society in America has gotten better.
More mainstream.
Yeah.
But like, so for you outside of because obviously when you're in prison and the race gang is kind of
it's an extreme environment.
Yeah, it's probably a lot easier to categorize people based on like their race than like their zodiac sign. So I'm guessing that's kind of why that's the default. But like outside of that, is that something that you've noticed?
For the Aquarius skinheads.
Also, they would be.
And it used to make me mad. So like I have a long history with this because of my experience with jail and prison, and there's like the skinhead gang. And so in prison, like people would be like that. And I didn't like it. I didn't even like that you were segregated, but I had to fall in line and do what I did. But I was like openly like not skinhead and like not in line with like the skinhead gang whenever I was locked up, because I didn't believe in the same things that they believe. Like they're just like all out racism. And so I had that, and I would get angry whenever they would talk about people, different races in negative ways. And so I would get mad. But then whenever I got out, I've experienced that a lot too. And like, yeah, somebody will come up to me and they'll talk, and they'll be talking about somebody and they'll use a derogatory name to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get mad, and I used to be like, hey dude, like don't be doing that in front of me. But now like my whole take on it is to enter into the conversation with them and have a conversation with them and tell them about how I have a quality relationship with a person like of that race that they're just degrading, and let them know that like that offends me, but not by like calling them out and being like, hey dude, like, because you know, like aggression towards aggression just like leads to fighting. But if I get down like on their level and like connect with them, and then they like me, and then I let them know, and oh yeah, by the way, like you offended me because like I have this friend and like you said that, and like I don't really like that, and that makes me feel bad. Like they're willing to be like, huh, okay, like this dude's cool, and like he has like a relationship with somebody of a different race that I have no respect for, and like what's that about? I think it has more of a chance to like make a change to that person's mind than me just all out be aggressively fighting with them, because that won't do any good. Then they'll just be like, oh,
are you doing sneaky therapy? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah,
exactly.
He's over there inserting the little cognitive dissonance triangle.
I'm trying to like manipulate them into like seeing what I believe is the truth, which all people are the same, and the color of your skin or the culture that you're from or where you were raised doesn't make us different. And so,
except for the Eskimos.
Well, because we're so tribalistic, dude. It's so built into like our genetic code to just tribalism, and it's like, are we ever going to be able to evolve out of that?
No,
I don't know, but
we just apply it in different ways.
That's why we need alien invaders,
right? Yeah. Well, that's why we have sports.
Yeah.
Like how many like physical altercations happen at ball games? Like you're not even on the team, bro. Like let it go. I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
No, but it's a big part of like who we are, and it's a lot of like the contention. I mean, if you just look at what's going on in the world, like with wars and everything, it's like, why do we do that? And I would hope that one day we would be able to evolve out of it. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I hope that's a conversation that people are having. How can we get away from this tribalism so we can like come together instead of like having all these like, I mean, just look at within our country. Look at how polarized everybody is and how at each other's throats everybody is. Like, where's in between? Like, where's the middle?
Yeah, I think it is something inherent, because that dissipates when we have something more common, like an alien attack or like 9/11. Like nobody gave a crap about politics, anything, any differences for like a solid 2 weeks, and that was really cool because there was something bigger than whatever we have. But I do think that there's some kind of inherent biological thing that we have, because it, like at the core, most of these dumb things that we do are like they go back to some kind of survival instinct.
I'd like to teach the world to sing.
And that makes me homicidal.
No, but wouldn't it be cool if we could like turn that tribalism like inward to like be able to like battle ourselves, to be able to live together and like accept each other? And I know that's just like an idea and it sounds all fluffy and good and everything, but like wouldn't it be cool? And like how do we do that?
Yeah, like, I think it's gonna have to be aliens.
Yeah.
To be honest with you,
is sports a pretty benign outlet for that tendency?
I would say that it's more benign than, you know, race wars.
Yeah, but
like I'm more okay with that.
But if we eliminated sports, would people be less tribal, or would they not have
I think that we would still have the need to express that instinct in some way.
Yeah.
So are you saying we get rid of sports and then just let everyone duke it out on the streets?
That's right.
And then the water crisis is gone.
We need to sort out all these Raider fans in Vegas.
You mean sort them out? We need to send them back.
Is that a problem over there? Are the Raiders fans a problem in Vegas right now?
Raiders fans have always been trash.
That's a tribalistic statement.
So nothing has changed. They just brought their trash over here.
They just went over to Vegas now.
Yeah. No, I would say Raiders fans used to have a very history of being
trash,
of being violent or unruly fans and disrespectful and not the kind of cool guy you want to sit next to in the stadium.
Right. I think that came from the 80s. Like they just had the gnarliest defense. Like their defense was so brutal, and so the fans were just like, "Yeah, we're badass." And so
So I think moving to Vegas has changed the culture of the fan base for the better. It's definitely a calmer, happier. Plus, it costs so much to get in the games. You have to have money enough to stay out of trouble.
Do you think it happens to be because of Oakland, the city in that area? Economically, was it a low income?
Be a tough town, yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I think even prior to that, they were LA and still tough.
so am I being not racist? What's the word? I'm stereotyping that the low income people.
Socioeconomic.
Yeah,
I'm
I think that does play into it. I mean, their mascot is like a pirate, so there's that. You know, it's not like the Oakland
It's already missing
kittens.
an eye.
You know, so you're dressing up like a pirate and like and doing piratey things. I don't know, plundering or whatever they do.
Swashbuckling.
Yeah, swashbuckling and whatnot.
Pirates are not big on community service.
Yeah, but I do think that the location definitely had a big impact on it, because also look at like the cultural climate around that time. There was a lot of like racial disparity, and for a city like LA to have like, because did they have the two teams essentially at that time?
There was a time in the past when the Rams and the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, you have, I want to wear purple and gold, or I want to wear black and silver. And, I think that does kind of, it gave people a more appropriate outlet to express maybe like.
So is it
that
logical to
disparity.
say then that the socioeconomic status is a more useful determinant than racism? Like
It is almost across the board. Socioeconomic status is a determinant for most things, more so than almost any other determinant.
Yeah. Just if you're poor and you grow up in a tough neighborhood and you have less access to education and you have more broken families and more crime around you, that's going to change your development, your upbringing. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and less healthy,
Yeah.
less coping skills, less social skills, education is a big component of it.
Just less
And
support. I think
What was that?
what it boils down to, I think, is just less support. Like whenever
Yeah.
whenever you go up and you like grow up in the world and like you're alone, and nobody's looking out for you. It's a different experience than when you have people who are looking out for you, and people who come from lower
Yeah.
incomes, they experience that.
yeah, because if your family is struggling, or you got a single parent
Yeah.
raising 4 kids, and they're going to be either working all the time and not there, or really struggling, living off of food stamps and welfare, probably doing both as best as they can. So where are you going to go and get the enrichment of the arts and your tuba lessons, and that's not going to happen. And the cave that you're in.
Wait, tuba lessons makes better people?
Tubas are expensive, man. But yeah, I mean, when kids that grow up in, middle upper class families, like you have exposure to these things, like maybe I never wanted to play the piano, but my parents knew that, some kind of musical activity was going to enhance my brain growth and make me better at reading and math. So like, hey, you're going to take piano lessons, and
Well, how's
maybe
that
I liked
different
it,
than
maybe
me
I
listening
didn't.
to Lil Wayne?
So the difference is you're actually playing it.
Okay.
So if you're listening to Lil Wayne and you're like playing like learning how to play that on the piano, cool. That's activating more stuff in your brain, and it's also opening.
No, but I'm rapping.
Yeah, I know.
No? Okay. Rapping is not as good
So the creative aspect of it.
Yeah, rapping,
Actually- But yeah,
Yeah.
rapping would count. But if you're singing along versus coming up with your own stuff,
I got my own CD.
it's
Yeah.
going to be different. I bet you do. I bet you do.
Yeah, and if you look at it from the point of like just people's core beliefs, like how they view the world, kind of like what I was saying earlier. Like if you
Yeah.
come from that place and your core belief is like, this world is dangerous, people are out to get me, like, and I don't have any help.
Yeah.
You have a completely different experience than somebody who believes
Thank you.
like everybody's here together and like I've got all the help that I need and like I can do whatever I want. Like the person who
Yeah.
believes I can do whatever I want is like in a much better place to succeed and thrive than the person who isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because think about what that mindset activates also for people. If you are constantly living in a place where you don't feel safe, you are always on the defensive, and you're always looking for where's the next attack coming from, whether it's like, a physical attack because your parents beat you, or you grew up in a really shitty neighborhood, or an emotional attack because you weren't supported. You're always looking for these things, and you're hyper vigilant for those things, and you perceive them in different places too. So maybe you're just complimenting my hair, but I'm not accustomed to that. I'm accustomed to every time a man speaks to me, he's trying to, attack me, and I'm going to take that very differently.
I would never attack you.
I know. I would kick your ass,
Scared,
Emmett.
I ain't no dummy. I know a lion when I see one.
Not out of respect, because I would kick your ass.
So back onto the topic that I thought was really interesting. You guys saying white people come to you and mention the racist thing. So I was
confidence.
What was that?
The secret confidence?
Yeah.
Kinda,
So
yeah.
let me, for the last few minutes, I was trying to think, am I anyway racist without knowing it before I asked you guys about you hearing other people be racist? So like my friend who owns a nail salon, surprise, Vietnamese, Asian
Oh, you
nail
racist
salon.
son of a bitch.
But the funny, potentially racist thing that happens is that they will say, yeah, we want to attract white customers because they tip more.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't think that's not
That's money.
a racial, that's money, but it's a racial thing, but it's not putting someone down because of their
Yeah.
color.
I think it's like, by definition, the racism is like denying somebody access to something, or treating them differently in a negative way
Yeah.
because of the color of their skin.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a business owner and you're saying this demographic is better for my business,
Yeah.
that's just demographics,
Yeah.
and that's probably fact. Like, there are differences between races in general. Like, white people still typically make more money than other races. Just
What if
that is still
Laquanda
fact.
calls in for an appointment and I go, oh, I can't get you in on Friday. It's very busy. I can fit you in on Tuesday.
I saw them have black clients, and they treated them very well. So I'm just throwing it out there just for the heck of it. I was
I mean, that
surprised.
gets complicated.
What was
What's
that?
that?
I think that gets complicated too, because
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're targeting white people for more money, and then because we think that they have more, but then also like somebody who's not white that may have money, like they're not like marketed the same, like they're not aware of your services the same.
yeah.
And so you could and create this thing where like you're providing services for people who are of the same income, but you're gonna like serve the white people more because they all have money, you know.
So-
but really, like somebody else of a different race has the same amount.
Yeah. So I did. I don't know if I want to say I was
You
I
wanna
was
flag
being
this?
no. Well, yeah, you could flag it just for the heck of it, but I don't think it's going to be bad.
Is this about the last time
There's
you
a
got your
little
nails
flag
done?
button at the top of the LCD screen, inside the LCD screen. So I saw a black customer, and then I was kind of thinking, okay, these are some Vietnamese friends, and I'm used to some of the old Vietnamese people who would,
So you were hanging out at the salon?
yeah.
Okay.
And I was expecting my friends to maybe treat them different. I didn't. It was me thinking, when I remembered when I was 15, thinking about the older generation, I thought my current friends might do that. This is the first time seeing them in action at work, and they're super gracious super nice, everything was awesome. Just white person, black person, the same. But I did go into that situation mentally thinking, oh,
It's because your bias was trained in when you were younger?
I wouldn't have been surprised if I saw
Them discourage them from coming back?
sort of. Now, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if I saw it. I'm not encouraging them to do that. I'm just not surprised because of what I've seen in my past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if I'm offering tennis lessons and I'm only going to offer tennis lessons in very nice neighborhoods?
I mean, if you're a business owner, you have a right to do whatever you want with your business.
Yeah.
And depending on if you're a shitty business owner or not, you will have business or you will not have ongoing business.
Yeah.
You know, like the wedding cake companies are like, oh, I'm not going to make cakes for gay people. Like, okay, people will, speak their opinions with their money.
Yeah.
Like, do I need a gay wedding cake? No. But if I know that your business like supports these ideals, you're not getting my money for my cupcakes or whatever.
Here's a
Yeah.
good example of that. Like, so what if I was only doing tennis lessons in wealthy neighborhoods? So yeah, if you're a business, that's cool. But if you're the federal government and you're doing education in school,
Yeah.
and for PE, like we have tennis rackets and tennis balls for the people who are in the wealthy neighborhood, and the people who are in the Section 8 neighborhood don't have that stuff. Well, yeah, if it's a largely separated like race right there, like one of them's one race and one of them's the other, that
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, that becomes racist because one has it and the other doesn't. And it doesn't have anything to do with business in that because it's supposed to be public for the public services. So, and that happens all the time, dude. That happens up and down the board. We were talking earlier about good and bad education. Like if you go into a poor neighborhood and you go into a rich neighborhood and you just look at just the public education, there's a vast disparity in that.
Yeah, even the physical structure of the school, the resources that they have in the school, the classes available, like huge disparity there. Absolutely, yeah, and it shouldn't be for something like that.
Right.
You know, for like the basic things that we need, like the healthcare and education. Like
our public education should be equal.
Yeah,
generally speaking,
it should
whenever possible. Yeah,
yeah, and it's not. It's definitely not. I mean, one of the few programs that exists is that teachers that are fresh out of school, I don't know if this is still a thing or not, you guys might know, but like when you're fresh out of school, you get an extra like stipend if you're teaching at one of the higher risk schools.
Like a tougher neighborhood.
For like a couple years.
They're doing that now too with social work. Like if you're interning at places that are like that, then you get more, you get like more scholarships and more money to pay them. So you get more, so because they need more people there.
Yep, PSLF.
We need you to go into the battle zone.
Yeah, pretty much.
You get a bonus pay to going into battle.
Yeah.
We need help. I mean, that part of our system is definitely broken. And, you know, everything that happened over the whole racial thing that happened in our country whenever we were in COVID or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a big part of that's true, that there's part of this that needs to be fixed. And we need to put a lot of energy and effort into that part of getting things equal.
More fairness and more opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is about just having the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, like if kids from any kind of neighborhood, regardless of like where they grew up, what their family situation is, if they all had the same access to the same quality education, then that would level the playing field a little bit more. Mm-hmm. If they all, you know, actually had easy access to healthcare, you know, and education and, you know, food.
Right. Then
that would really level the playing field.
Yeah, you're less likely to feel desperate and turn to a criminal activity if you have other options, right?
Well, I think that's really like the only way that we'll ever kind of like narrow the generational gap of wealth and disparity is, you know, because if I was born into a wealthy family and I had opportunities that you didn't have, I'll pass that on to my kids and they'll have opportunities that your kids won't have unless, you know, you make your millions in Bitcoin or something like that. But even with that, like you still have to have training, you have to have understanding, you have to have an actual computer, you know?
Yeah, there's building blocks under each building block.
Yeah. I had this friend, and he's a very intelligent guy, made a lot of his money doing like software or some crap like that. I don't know, like wrote games or something.
Some computer
stuff. I'm like, I don't know, your matrix code. And his solution for education was, well, just get them all iPads. And I'm like, you don't understand how many kids cannot afford an iPad, or it would get stolen or broken, or they can't. Where are they going to charge it? Maybe they're living in a car. Like that was just his solution. And I was like, where? Like, what planet do you live on, man?
Yeah.
I think from what I hear, there is some of that where they're trying to get Chromebooks to a lot of students. So
that's a big effort. Yeah.
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 That seems very.
Yeah, like my organization has a program where we will give out iPads to, you know, if they're lower income or something, so that they can have their medical appointments. But still, we need to train them on how to use it. You know, show them how to use the apps.
Angry Birds.
But it's similar to that conversation we had with you and Scott, where it's not just there's so many pieces. They have to have these kids have to have some place they could sleep. They have to have a place where they're not being beaten by parents. They have to have food. So there's just so many factors and all of this. The building blocks is just so many to it.
And like a lot of kids have to drop out of school to work, to feed their families. Like
you guys keep talking about intelligent stuff. We want to hear about the secret white club.
The secret white club.
I had one other.
You guys are really excited about this. You're like, you didn't think that actually happens.
I'm really excited about it. I have one more point to add, or one more story to add. Then I'll let you guys loose on that topic. I'm trying to be unbiased or show whatever bias that I have. So then, a recent thing that I thought that could have been potentially racist, when we had the barbecue at your place, and I text you. hey, since you're having, I forget the wording. Since you're having the other food, I'm gonna have Liem make this Vietnamese dish that contains fish sauce. I forget what I text you. I said it might be very pungent in smell and flavor. I forget. Is that okay if I bring it?
Yeah.
So the racist thing is that I know that you're a white American and that the other guest might be white American.
Yeah.
So I was being
Cautious?
I think that's being sensitive, you know, and I think that's those are the kinds of conversations that we should be having, you know, even something as benign as like, can I bring this pot of like stinky food over? Because you're not making
pungent delicious.
Yeah. You're making assumptions, but you're also not, and you're trying to be sensitive and respectful of my home,
Yeah.
you know, like, hey, I'm going to bring this thing over. It's yummy. It might smell like feet or whatever. And I think that you just said it's like kind of spicy and some of your guests might not like it. And I'm like, well, fuck them if they don't.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It
Can't handle it, get it out. But yeah,
but
but
it was like empty but at the end.
and,
So that was awesome.
I viewed that as like, hey, I'm going to bring this thing over, just letting you know what it's about. Is that all right? Which I felt was very respectful of like me and my property. Like sometimes people just like bring their dogs over or something, you know, which is like not respectful.
Yeah.
Of me.
Did they not tell you they were bringing their dog?
What? Oh no, they did.
Oh, okay.
No, I was like, you will bring that dog, or we are not friends anymore. Because they brought over a puppy, and he was like all squishy, and they have the like soft puppy hair. It was so cute, and then my dog stepped on him. Felt bad.
All right.
But yeah, I think being thoughtful, because you were basically, I heard your question was like, was I being racist? Like, it sounds to me like you're being thoughtful. You were thinking about, and you were like planning out like what you're doing, and like, I don't think the people who are like racists are like really thinking things through. I mean, or if they do,
Yeah.
or if they do, they're thinking things through, and they're coming from like a base thing of something that's flawed, which is people are different because they're different races. People are like inherently have different values because different races. And so that's obviously like a flawed thought. And so it's either that they're not thinking things through, or they just have this like thing that's a cornerstone that they go to and use that's not correct.
Yeah.
Or
What if I'm like, hey, what should I bring? Some White Claws and some apple pie? Is that?
Somebody brought White Claws too, and I'm like, just because I'm white doesn't mean I drink those.
Hey, did you drink any of the White Claws?
No, I don't drink that shit. Motherfucker shows up with some White Claws, and like, I'm like, I don't know who those are for.
Those are flavored kind. They're pretty good.
They're not. They taste like feet.
So to take that meta-analysis a step further, so
We're in the weeds now.
I am assuming you are a white American that can't eat fish sauce, but is that mean of me to assume that?
I didn't interpret it as you're assuming that I can't handle this food.
Maybe I did.
You know, I mean, if you are like, okay, that's cool, and that's your problem, not mine. But I don't think it's inherently racist to acknowledge our differences, that we have them.
Well worded.
You know, like I think that's actually very like forward thinking and open minded. You know,
Okay.
if I went to go have someone, you were like, oh no, Cracker can't handle that. I'd be like, well, we're gonna talk. You know, and I'd
Yeah.
watch me. But like, I mean, when I went to Taiwan, I was the spectacle, and everyone was like, see if she eats this. Like, let her eat this. And I'm like, it's fine. It's just fucking chicken feet. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I'm okay with that. But that's also just me. I can see how other people might be, you know, offended or upset by that. But like, I'm not, because, you know, yes, I am white. Very much so. Sorry.
But isn't it cool to have like cultural differences? Because like what you're talking about, it's kind of like a cultural difference. Like this person grew up maybe in a different culture than I did, and like, so maybe I should ask. I think that's just like cool. Like all these different cultures is like rad to experience, though, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So recognizing that there's different cultures, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. That's just being aware that there's different things going on.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think we almost get a pass for being ignorant as a white person, as long as we kind of like we start with the I acknowledge that I might be dumb and ignorant here. Like if we start with that foot, I think we almost get a little bit more of a pass when asking about other people's culture. That's been my experience.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like
Yeah.
for foods in Vietnam, like I'll like when I'm in Vietnam with my wife, if we see a white tourist eat that tit caw dish, which is the one that I brought to your house, she's like, oh, that white person ate it. Wow, that's pretty awesome. But then obviously if I'm there eating it, or if I choose not to eat, actually, if I choose not to eat it, they may say, come on, what are you? You're Vietnamese. Why aren't you eating that stuff?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like,
Is there like something weird with that dish? Because it was just like good, normal.
it has a
meaty
lot of
food.
fish sauce.
Oh,
That's it.
no, it was
I love
really
fish
good.
sauce, by the way.
Yeah.
I really do. I make a lot of pan fried noodles and I put.
Yeah, it's not like you pureed a fish and put it in the pot.
No.
Like that would be kind of gross. But yeah.
Did it have a smell that you didn't enjoy?
No, it smelled great.
Yeah, it's that soup with the coagulated blood that's difficult for American tongues.
I've had like what is the blood sausage?
It's not even a sausage; it's just like a brick of coagulated blood.
That's how they do it in like Scotland.
Yeah.
Haggis.
All right, let's jump to your guys' racist stories. Then I'm really interested in that.
Well, I've had
After the break.
a few of my patients, because I work at a residential treatment center, basically, and we have a pretty diverse population. And I've had a few, and it's always just like the pervy old white men. Love to say that. And you know that usually they're assigned to me, and I'm their individual therapist. And like after they feel comfortable, they're like, "Man, you know all the black people here," blah, blah. And I'm like, "Whoa!" And they just assume that because I'm white, like I view things the same way. You know, or like, "Oh, I'm so glad that I'm with you and not the other therapist." And I'm like, "The black guy." Is it because he's a man or because he's black or you don't like his therapeutic strategies? Well, you know. Like,
I'm okay with you being sexist, just not racist.
please inform me. Like, what is the reason here? But yeah, I mean, just the amount of people and it's always just these old white dudes.
Huh.
Sometimes old white women, but usually older.
Yeah.
Older, and they seem to just approach it with like this assumption that I'm thinking the same thing, and I'm like, I don't know what vibes I'm giving off that make you think this is like
There's a moment
appropriate.
where they feel like, oh, you're one of me, you're one of us, right? And
Yeah. But I also have that with some friends that are very like fixed in their political beliefs. They just assume that people genuinely all the time think this way and are like afraid to say it in public. And I'm like, no, you're fucking crazy, man. Like that's not like this is not acceptable behavior. Like, this is not normal to think that way.
At least I guess the good cup half full on your story is you're saying it's mostly older people. So hopefully means as our society is going through the generations, things are slowly getting better.
Hopefully, I mean, what I see just anecdotally is the more like blatantly racist stuff happens with older generations, because that used to be okay,
Yeah,
and like blatantly sexist stuff.
Yeah.
It's usually the older generations because that, used to be okay. And the younger generations understand that, but it seems just from what I observe that the younger generations, it's more like their political alignment. That is just, this is fact.
Have you had any stories outside of work?
I mean, yeah, a lot of my friends are very like one way or another. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like if there were one idea that just worked, that was absolute and better than all the other ideas, that's probably the one we would have stuck with. We haven't come up with that yet.
So that's
McDonald's.
Sure.
McDonald's is forever.
Yep.
So that's politically, but how about racially? That's not racially when you're saying your friends and stuff.
Not necessarily. I think for some of them the racist stuff comes out, but just wrapped up in that political ideology.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
There seems to be
It's a very
high
PC
overlap.
way of saying.
Yeah. Emmett's been talking about the overlap.
Yeah.
What about you, Billy? Is there do you remember a story of somebody surprising you with
for
their?
me, I have similar experiences, like older white dudes. Like, oh, I can talk to this guy, and then they're just talking out of their asses, using words that are like offensive and stuff like that. And they just think that because I'm a white guy, like I'm cool with it. And then so I see it in that older white men, and then also whenever people are coming out of like a jail and prison environment or like a white gang environment, like skinhead type thing, and that's just all they've ever been around. There's white gang members, and that's just part of their identity of who they are. They're racist. They're in a racist gang. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And I deal with it like I was saying before. Like I see it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
I kind of used to get mad, but now it's like, oh, I have an opportunity now to like go ahead and try to show this person that like racism is different, but how everybody's similar is like, I mean, how are we similar? Like our emotions. Everybody has the same emotions. They manifest in different ways, but whatever. So trying to like persuade people or show people that is like my idea. Because I was saying earlier, I wish that we could evolve out of tribalism. I really do, because I think if we don't, like it might be our downfall.
Yeah.
So my contribution of what I can do, like that's in front of me, is whenever that I come into contact with that, do my best to show them that we're the same. People are the same. And then hopefully by me doing that, other people will do it, and other people will do it, and other people will do it.
I think that's such an awesome nugget that when you encounter something racist, that you see it as an opportunity, like, oh, I can get in here and talk to this person and maybe open their mind a little bit. So that is such a cool way to see that, instead of maybe a normal reaction or a typical reaction to be offended or to be angry or to be scared or to be, to have some more base level reaction. But Billy's taking it to a next level and going, oh, well, hey, look, something ain't right here. Let's talk to this person and engage. And
I think the reason I came to that place is because I used to get mad and fight with people and be like, hey, like literally fight with people and then argue with people.
Don't be racist.
And yeah, like, I mean, I fought a lot of skinheads over stuff like, and then but it didn't get me anywhere. It didn't change anything. And like, if I'm thinking about the whole big picture, like I don't like tribalism and I want to change it. Like I didn't do anything. If anything, I just made it worse, because now they're like thinking like, oh, this guy just likes people of a different race and like he's, just like them or whatever. And so now I'm just lumped in with them and they still hate everybody.
Yeah, you're not one of us.
And there's got to be, I feel like the love and the acceptance and the like teaching as along with somebody is the answer. So
yeah, I think it's pretty awesome you do that. It reminds me, this is a little bit different, but he was recently on Joe Rogan. It's I forget his name. It's a black guy that he's actually turned KKK members and reversed them. And then those KKK members actually gave up their membership and gave him their robe to show that they're giving it up.
I've heard that before.
And his approach is, he will, if he runs into somebody at a bar or whatever it is, a situation, his approach is to let them say all their racist stuff, and he just sits there and says, okay, and he does a I'll be your friend approach. And he says the main thing is for him is he'll wait till almost the day after. Sometimes it'll be the end of that conversation or the day after, where that white person will then ask him his opinion. So because he hasn't attacked him, he hasn't got angry, he hasn't caused that person to want to leave the room because he's black. So then now he has opportunity to share his story and show that he's not a stereotypical black person in that KKK's person's eyes, if that makes sense. So now it's interesting. I guess your story is a white person to a white person to a white person that's racist, where he's a black person dealing with a white person being racist towards his race. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that your approach is you get to bring your story up quickly. His seems like a lot of patience. I'm like, dang, I don't know if I could do that. I would get angry. If someone's saying shit about Vietnamese people and I'm just sitting there like, yeah. Like, I don't think I could put up with that.
It seems like the people are probably just trying to like recreate what they know is true. They know that like whenever they argue and they fight with black people. And so they're just trying to recreate it. So he's sitting there in front of him and they're just saying all this bad stuff and trying to recreate that same experience. And he's not allowing that to happen. He's saying, nope, I'm not going to do that with you. And I'm going to provide you with a safe relationship with somebody who actually cares about you and talk to you like man to man or to woman, whatever the situation is. And so you can get some understanding of something different.
Yeah. I think he has like 3 or 4 robes now. That's pretty crazy. Your story?
I got a funny one. So we're renting a condo to a friend, and she's Asian, And so she's moving into the condo, and moving trucks there, the moving guys are moving stuff, and then she notices there's a lady by the mailbox observing us very intently, and she jokes. She goes, "Hey, is this Mi Chang going to be a problem?" And so
Mi Chang is
is whitey in Vietnamese, right? It's this white lady, and so the fear is this some Karen HOA lady looking for trouble, so. I'm like, maybe, because there are HOA ladies that it's not racial, but so I wander over and go, hey, what's happening? And it turns out she's very interested because she's going to sell her condo soon. So she goes, oh, I'm really curious, did you buy this one up here? And then I engage with her in a real estate sense, right? Like, oh yeah, I bought it for $265 and yada, 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 right? So it was a joke about being racist in a non-racist situation, I guess. So it was a funny interlude that I thought of.
I think that maybe it seems like a lot of our stories have been, we're using racism as more of a statistical prejudice at first, but you're not letting the prejudice dictate the whole interaction. It's just being careful up to that point, and then you interact with the person and find out, oh, this is just
Is it a predictor of what you think is going to happen?
Yeah, the assumption is still there.
Yeah.
You're just allowing to have an actual interaction that might disprove that assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying we use statistics to how we treat individuals? Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not saying all. I would say that's how I do it. So I will go into a situation if I see, I don't know, a bunch of Vietnamese people. I'm gonna go into that situation thinking, oh, these Vietnamese people might say something about white people, might say something negative. It just maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if I heard it, but I'm not encouraging it. I'm just, if I hear it, then I'll deal with it when I hear it, but I'll just mentally prep my mind that it may happen.
The expectation going in.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a statistical thing.
Yeah, but I know I'm very socioeconomically aware. Like, I don't care what somebody's skin color is. Mm-hmm. But if I see somebody's dressed up like a gangbanger, I'm going to think, well, he's communicating to me that he's not averse to criminal behavior.
Mm-hmm. Well, we go based off of our past experiences, and you're also looking through it. You're looking through it through a real estate lens.
But just of like a personal safety thing. Like if some dude's behind me on the street and he's wearing a button-down shirt, I'm going to go, oh, yeah. He's going to try to sell me something, right? But if he's wearing different clothes, then that communicates to me, oh, he's telling me his socioeconomic status and what his role models are and what his behaviors are through his outfit. So I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but it seems like it's an indicator. What's this person's behavior going to be in respect to me?
Because that's a little bit, what somebody wears is a little bit more of a choice.
Yeah. Is this person going to try to break into my car when I'm out of sight?
Yeah. But you are also making assumptions.
Yeah. Well, it's not a problem until your car gets broken into, right?
This is true.
So that, I don't know. I'm just saying that's typically.
I think that's probably like a common thing too. I think, and just listening to your story, I think this is one of the things that I'm grateful for is I have some freedom in that, like, just because I have my past, like, I don't care what somebody's just like. I want to connect with anybody that I can with, like, on an individual personal level, because I know the gangbanger and exactly what he was doing and where he came from and like what he maybe did or did not get in his life whenever he was a kid. And so, like, I have compassion and empathy for him in a way that is very personal to me, as much as I do for, like, the guy who's dressed up in a business suit. And so I think that I'm super grateful for that. And I think it makes me stand out too in the work that I do, and that whoever sits in front of me, like, I'm going to try to connect with you, like, in a personal way and try not to judge you for it. And of course, like you said earlier, I do have my biases, but
you don't have a fear going in, right?
So, I kind of want to hang out with the dude that's dressed like a gangbanger.
Yeah.
I want to show that guy that, like, there's somebody out there that, like, cares about him and wants to say, hey, how are you doing? And, like, listen to him, because he needs that probably more than the dude in the business suit.
Yeah.
So I'll throw out, so kind of connected to that. If you're walking down a street on the sidewalk, walking towards you is two black guys dressed in gangbanger quote unquote gangbanger clothing.
Is this a math question?
Oh no, you're both walking at 15
There's a
miles per
fox on
hour.
the other side.
But then if you are a white person, decide to cross the street to avoid walking past those two black guys.
Yeah.
Now, is that right, wrong, or is that a statistical preemptive?
Yeah. It definitely sounds racist.
What if it's...
Well, I mean, I think that we have I don't know, this is a tricky question, but I think we have the right to pay attention to our gut instincts as well. So if there's two black dudes walking down the street and I'm walking towards them, I'm like, oh, this is cool, whatever. And I just walk by them and say, hey, what's up, guys? That's cool. But if something inside me is this doesn't feel right, I feel like it's okay to listen to our gut instincts. Now, whether it's racist or not, or whether it comes from a pre-cognitive thing that might have to do with racism or stereotyping, I don't know. But I do know that whenever we listen to ourselves tell us things, a lot of the times it helps us, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Renee? Is personal safety a factor in our actions?
Is my personal safety more important than you getting offended? Yes, it is. Yeah, but I think some people have a little more keen gut instinct than other people do, and I think people in the helping profession, that gets developed. But there's also, I think it's a combination of we have that a little more innately, and that's why we go into the field. But it's also, it's very much developed. So because you work at a treatment center right now.
Yeah.
Is it inpatient?
It's there. It has all levels of care. Okay.
So when you're in an environment and you're working with that stuff, that you really, really hone that sense of that sixth sense. Because fresh out of school, I was working in acute psych, and that got developed real quick.
Acute psychology?
So acute psychiatric hospitals.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, these are the people that are...
50s.
Yeah, the sickest of the sick. These are people that are actively psychotic, actively suicidal, off their meds, literal danger to themselves or others. These are people that are on legal holds.
Super crazy.
And yeah, well, and some of them just, super normal, just said the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time. And that happens a lot. I've seen people that I know, and I'm like, how? And they're like, I'm going to fire my therapist. I'm like, gotcha. I know exactly what happened there. Can you get me out? Nope. Sorry.
If you're at a therapist and you say, oh, I feel like murdering everybody and then killing myself.
Yeah, don't say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you are, then definitely let us know, and then we'll do things to help.
72-hour hold, right?
Yep.
Is there a difference between having a passing thought versus I literally...
Yes.
Okay. So
we call that intent.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a plan, if you have a plan to do it or not. And if
Plan
you
and
have the
intent.
means to get it done.
Everybody thinks about killing themselves at some point,
I don't think I ever do, yeah.
or just dying. What if I just died?
Yeah.
What if I just, things are so stressful right now, I would just like to not live tomorrow. That's a normal thing to have.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to take this butter knife and, cut my
Tuesday
throat
at 3
open.
o'clock whenever
Yeah,
it comes back.
that's a little more specific.
That's that's the word.
I know, right? I've seen some weird shit, man.
Yeah.
Butter knives are for putting delicious stuff on your food.
Yeah.
It's a shame to...
Or, making sure you get put on that L2K. But that, for me, that sense I feel is very strong.
Yeah.
And because that's been developed over time in some very extreme circumstances, because when you work in an environment like that and it's all day, every day, you got to be looking out for safety.
Yeah.
In the weirdest places, and you have to be able to feel the vibe of someone's going to pop off today, and I need to make sure that I know where the nearest exit is, or whatever's going on. So I think for some of us that's a very strongly developed intuitive thing, and for some people it's just their racist thoughts. And it's you need to be the people that are willing to have the introspection and do the work are not going to be the people that are sitting there with their racist thoughts thinking that they're not racist.
I can say when I go, so I have a lot of younger friends. We go down to Fremont Street a lot to party at certain venues, certain bars and stuff. But but a lot of times you got to park far away and walk in, right? But I think it's just around people and around crowds. Like I start being a little bit more aware of my
It's normal.
personal safety a little bit, but more like is somebody gonna try to pick my pocket or try to grab my phone or so.
It's just
it's a little
situational awareness.
heightened, Yeah.
On us, kind of connected with that, but not really. When I'm in a big social gathering, a crowded spot, concerts, a venue, usually not a party at home, I don't get this feeling, but I get this anger towards people when it's crowded. I don't know what it is. When people start crowding and getting close, I'm like, I want to start throwing fists. I don't know what it is with me.
What is that?
When it's a crowded spot that I feel like, say a concert, I'm going to go where it doesn't need to be crowded, but then maybe people start moving over. I'm just like, get the fuck away from me. Like,
Wait, so you do like mosh pits or you don't like mosh pits?
When I was younger, I did, but nowadays I don't care.
Because you're allowed to punch people there, right?
Yeah, but
That would be a healthy outlet.
What was that?
That would be a healthy outlet for your rage.
I don't know what it is. I find being in crowded areas, I very much dislike it nowadays.
I'm curious what that is.
Part of me is I try to find like.
Do you feel that way in airports? Because you almost need airports to travel.
When people start crowding, when there's like a lot of room and they somehow start crowding a line, like, and I happen to be there in that, I'm like, dude, there's so much room. Like, why don't we just line up and we could easily
get on the plane.
We could easily have 2-3 feet apart or even 1 foot apart, but they're like right up on. Yeah, they're anxious. They want to get in or something, and there's so much room and they just crowd right there. I'm like, what the fuck?
You wouldn't survive in China.
I don't know.
China's a lot of crowding.
There's a lot, like close, so close. I have a question for you. Do you like controlling like your space? Like, do you like it to be a certain way and to be set up a certain way and to like be able to like change it around if you want to and all that? How important is that? Or are you able to do that in your house?
I feel no, but I don't know if Emmett's nodding.
You absolutely do, yeah. You have your desk set up perfect, your screen to the exact height, and then you got a footrest and then you got everything ergonomically set. Yeah.
So if Emmett went in and just like rearranged how your desk was set up, would that bother you?
No. So I think Emmett's
I think we're gonna have to do an experiment here.
Go for it. I actually prefer my room to be a mess, but Neum likes to clean everything. So I don't care to throw clothes everywhere. I don't.
There you go. So you want your room to be a mess, but you're lazy.
But I don't care. It doesn't bother me. She cleans stuff. Like she reorganizes like crazy, and I'm like, whatever. The only thing that upsets me is when I'm looking for something, and that sucks. And I'm like, oh, I need the specific screwdriver for this thing that I'm fixing. That kind of sucks, but whatever. I think you're misconstruing, because if you have a desk and I've had carpal tunnel on my left hand before, and it was terrible, and so I don't want to repeat that. So I want a desk that facilitates that.
Yeah, I don't think you're actually
okay.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question is just because if you like are getting angry, it might be because of fear, and it might be just because like you feel like you can't control like what's going on around you. Like there's all these people might not be able to have control, so I'm afraid, and that turns into like this rage because like I don't like all these people around me. It feels uncomfortable. I don't like it.
From a psychological standpoint, I would guess, if I had to guess my therapeutic analysis.
You can't therapize yourself.
Sure, you can.
I'm guessing it has to probably do with the amount of my parents were pretty verbally rough and physically, but physically back in the day when it was normal to hit your kid on the butt or the leg or the hand. With the Vietnamese culture, it was a little bit more harsh than the American way, but that only lasted till the age of 7, and then after that was more verbal from my family, my mom, my aunts and uncles. So I think I have a hot temper, but I don't think it's detrimentally bad, in my opinion.
You're just ready for it to pop off, man. You're just like, okay, what's going on here? If somebody gets crazy, I'm ready to go. I'll be like, this is really a good thing.
So like, but I don't think it's not like it's not. I feel like it's not detrimental because I have good friends that I talk to, and we have long conversations. We have a long friendship. Emmett thinks that sometimes he'll say stuff and I get angry, but I think we have an unusual friendship where we're cousins. We've lived together for
decades.
22. Shit, I don't even know. Probably 22 years in the last. Sorry, we've lived together probably 19 years in the last 22 years.
Decades.
Yeah, so that's a very long amount of time. So I think we have a slight what's the word I'm looking for? What we view of each other might be different than what others from the outside view, because they don't know the history. They don't know people outside don't know the history. So
but if you're just angry at me all the time, then it's abusive.
Well, when I'm telling you some of the shit you say is fucking, you're an asshole, like you don't listen, like it's.
Maybe you should listen.
But if I'm not saying asshole things and somebody's perceiving it as asshole things,
maybe you are saying asshole things. It's introspection, Emmett. It's important.
We'd have to go to couples therapy then, because we need an outside opinion.
Yeah, that's not going to be me.
But I'm not trying to bring this stuff up. Like, it seems like you are. So then, as a controlling thing, another factor, I don't know if this is any indication of anything. I do enjoy having quietness in the house. Like if it's up to me, it doesn't bother me if people have music on. Liem likes to have music on, and it doesn't bother me. She'll play it for hours at a time. But if it's up to me, dead silent. I love dead silence. Mm-hmm. But I don't push it on others.
Oh my gosh, that's like music to my ears, dude. And like, my chick's the same way. She wants to like talk and like watch TV. I'm like, I love you, but like, I need some space right now. I'm the same way.
Just leave me in my cave.
Yeah.
Are there topics we need to cover during this?
I wanted to jump to the.
I have another question for Renee. Just
okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I can wait for whatever.
No, go for it.
Okay, so did you say that you worked with military, a lot of military, right?
I do, yeah.
What part of your work is like PTSD, and like what does that look like, and what's the most effective treatment for that?
So for me, my position is their primary course of treatment is for substance use.
Okay.
So that's always going to be the presenting problem, if you will. About half of them have combat trauma. And I would say almost all of them have some kind of childhood trauma, whether they acknowledge it as trauma or not.
Right.
So I would say it's a huge factor for this population. And in terms of the treatment that we do, it really varies, and it's really difficult to do when they're in early recovery. Because a lot of the treatment for PTSD is you have to actually like look at these things and evaluate these things. And this is like the most traumatic thing in your life. And we're like, so we're going to talk about it now, but you can't use.
Right.
And so we really have to do a lot of,
can't use drugs.
Yeah. Like coping skills development before we can even try to like breach
the subject.
that. Yeah. So a lot of what we do for like the early stage kind of like PTSD treatment, is just really like those coping strategies and recognizing triggers and using the kind of fundamental, like just kind of cognitive behavioral ABC stuff, of, okay, I recognize that I'm feeling this way in my body, and that means that this is probably happening. And so this is what I need to do so that I don't pick up again. And it's usually like a long time after that they're able to actually go through
the actual
real, like what is it? I'm looking at you guys like you know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Like where you record it and then you listen to it. Is that one of the treatments?
That's one of them that they do, the kind of prolonged exposure.
Prolonged exposure,
yeah. And there's also the cognitive processing, where they write it down, because that taps into different areas of the brain when they're actually writing down the story of your trauma, and then they pick apart like what's the most difficult parts, what are the parts that I'm stuck on. That's a really good treatment, and a lot of my patients that have gone on to do a residential treatment for PTSD afterwards is they'll do that, or they'll do the exposure. I do EMDR, and I have done that with some of my patients that they've come in for like their second or third round of treatment. And we've had some very interesting things go on.
What's EMDR? Is that shocking?
No. But that is a thing still.
Oh,
In a couple of different ways. Yeah. Those are usually used for depression though.
oh,
But EMDR is, it's a similar way,
Okay.
I guess a similar idea of like the shocking. But basically it's a thing where you wave your hand in front of their face and their eyeballs track what you're doing. And the idea is that it replicates REM sleep, which is when memories get sorted into where they're supposed to go. Because what happens with PTSD is the trauma gets kind of like stuck in this part of the brain that doesn't have a concept of space or time and doesn't understand that this is a memory and not something that's happening right now.
oh.
So when there's a trigger, people actually relive what's going on. They're re-experiencing that.
Wow.
So it's not just like, oh, I'm having this memory and that makes me feel sad or upset. It's like, no, I'm there right now.
getting shot
I
at
can,
again.
Yeah, I can hear it, smell it, feel it, all that stuff. So it's not deleting the memory, but we kind of take it and just put it into the part of the brain where it's supposed to go that says this is a memory. It's a fucked up memory, but it's just a memory and it's not happening right
Old
now.
news.
Yeah, to just kind of alleviate the re-experiencing.
Is it just as simple as getting their eyes moving, or is there a certain pattern or a speed or?
So it's a lot of work. Like it's really exhausting for me when I do it.
Controlling aircraft.
Yeah, well, when I do it, people know, like people that come in and want to do EMDR, they're like, do the wavy hand thing. I'm like, okay, but we're gonna do like 3 hours of talk to prep before we do the wavy hand thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you. If you can get certified in it, I strongly recommend it because it's just fucking cool to watch. Like it's really cool because you see an affect change like so quick. So yeah, like one of the guys that I was working with on it, he's really, really interesting kid. I mean, very hard and very, very angry, like visibly angry all the time. And within 2 or 3 times of doing it, he would start to soften. He started bawling. I mean, it just like all these emotions, and you can just see it on their face. It's really, really cool. Like it's really cool. And he ended up going straight to like some childhood stuff
So you
that
like
had
seeing
nothing to
tough
do
guys
with.
cry.
I love seeing tough guys cry. Of course I do. It's great. Because for a lot, like this kid that I was working with, I call him a kid because he was like barely 30.
Young dude, yeah.
Yeah, he was super young guy, really neat guy. And he was like a sniper. He was a jump master. Like he'd accomplished all these things in the military, but just could not stop fucking drinking and using drugs. And it was because, like, yeah, he saw some fucked up stuff in the military, but before that, like he never felt safe and like heard and seen as a child.
Does being a sniper mess people up?
War messes people up.
So any fashion of killing other people.
I mean, you can't unsee that stuff.
There's I read.
Yeah.
There's a protective factor for people who are separated from their enemies that they kill. So like if I'm like doing hand-to-hand combat, I'm going to be like more traumatized than if I'm a sniper and I'm like separated and like you're way over there and I'm way over here.
Yeah. Or if you're a drone pilot.
I'm sure it's or pilot or like the bomber crews that drop bombs. But people still go through stuff like that too. But
yeah.
That 3-minute segment there, I had so many questions. You threw a bunch of bombs in there. The PTSD, you said something about a lot of people, they had childhood trauma now, trauma. Is that most people that is the childhood trauma, if they didn't have that, if they went through that traumatic event, would they deal with it better if they didn't have childhood trauma?
It's hard to say. And I would say it has more to do with like your existing resources and your ability to put that event where it goes and rationalize it with yourself. And some people, regardless of childhood trauma, they do or don't develop that. So like if you experienced childhood trauma as a kid, but you're able to kind of compartmentalize and understand like this wasn't normal, my parents were just shitty, or I was raised in foster care or something, and you're able to kind of like understand that and still develop quality coping skills, you can experience multiple traumas throughout your life if you have the foundation to understand and be able to put those where they need to go, as like, this is something super crappy that happened and it goes over here. For other people, they experienced series of traumas throughout their life, or maybe just one thing. Maybe they had a great life and never had to use any of those skills up until the time that they went and, had to shoot somebody, and now they're horribly traumatized because they've never developed those skills. So it's really more like from my perception, it's more about just like the skills that are built to cope with the things that are going to happen at some point in your life. And some people have just experienced like such horrendous things that it's like, how can you even function? Like if you've got to deal with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've been there before, like people telling me stuff where they come from, and it's like, how are you even here right now? Like, how would you survive this long? Like, it's sometimes it's a trip.
And that's a really shitty place to be, like, as a therapist, because it's like, I don't know that I can even help. Like, that's just fucked up, man. I don't know that I can even like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, let's just work on helping you like you a little bit more. Like, it's hard to know like what am I supposed to do with this?
So dealing with vets, is there a lot of macho attitude or machismo? Is that a characteristic? Is it a challenge, or is it not a factor?
I would say yes and no. I don't know that it's more so than the general population, because they're not active duty, right? So they're not in that mode right now, and there's probably a lot that they do when I'm not around, because they tend to be on better behavior when me and the other therapists are around.
Okay.
Yeah, because we'll get reports from nursing and we're like, what? My little angel did what? And they're like, yeah, he threw his feces on the wall. And we're like, what? No,
Do you think being in a harsh prison would be a similar PTSD experience, or a different PTSD experience, or is it not the same?
I mean,
how would the two relate?
I think it depends. I think for both situations, there's a lot of just ingrained culture in the institution. That some people are able to leave behind when they leave, and some people are not. Some people thrive better in environments that are very structured and that have kind of that built-in tribalism.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. And some people don't.
I think the prison is like, it's the same in that like the stress level is like whenever you're in war, like, you're kind of stressed and hypervigilant like all the time. You don't really sleep that good, probably. Like you're going through like all that, and like prison's kind of like the same.
Because there's always the possibility somebody's going to attack you while you're.
Yeah, because like it's always, you're on edge, and like it's violent in there. Like people fight all the time, and so you're expecting it all the time. And so I think that would
drive me nuts.
Yeah, I've experienced some symptoms from PTSD from stuff like that, and I know some other people in prison that have, but. I think war is different in that it's just so much more like brutal. Like you're in this like team, you have this team and you're doing something good, and then all of a sudden, like wham, like people are dying. Like this guy that you've known for maybe years or whatever, he's like your best friend, like he's gone and you just watched it happen. But in prison it's it's like expected, like that's what's going on there. You know what you're in for and like what's gonna happen exactly. And so I think it might be a little bit more easy to come up with the symptoms for PTSD from war just because of those circumstances.
Yeah. Well, and it's romanticized too, like, oh, our hero is going off to war.
Yeah.
And that disparity.
Right.
I'm going to come back a war hero and you're going to come back missing some shit.
Yeah.
I think if I had to choose, I'd rather go to war than go to a hard prison, because I think that being on edge all the time, that never knowing who's going to attack me or try to stab me or like you say the word hypervigilant, like I think that would just wear my nerves to just insanity, I would think.
Yeah.
I think oddly I would choose prison over war.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to probably say some stupid shit. Billy, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's great. You get to work out. You get to food.
It sounds awesome.
Get a little store.
Just nap all day.
The prison fights, is it, I'm imagining you don't go into a fist fight in prison expecting to actually fully kill someone. You just want to put their lights out.
It depends. It depends on what the situation is there. If you're not fighting somebody who's like not doing life, like they're probably not trying to kill you, because if they do, then they're going to get life. So there's that. But that being said, there's been a lot of jail and prison fights where people have died and people aren't trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
So.
And then I think of war as in when I hear the atrocities of when troops go in somewhere and they rape the women, or the way they kill somebody, not just with a gun, but like with a knife or.
There's some raping in prison too.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if that would be as much as in war. I have no idea.
And this is also very pervasive in the military. I mean, the presumption is you're going in there and you're there with your brothers and sisters and you have their back regardless.
Yeah.
And there's so much sexual assault in the military. It is ingrained in the culture, and it's not like one guy just running around raping everybody. Like
there's 1 out of 3 women in the military
report
suffer from like a report
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That is
I mean,
horrendous.
out of every 3 women in the military, one of them like gets assaulted and then reports it, and then there's probably more going on too.
Yeah. From my patients that I've had, I have had one who has said that she was not sexually assaulted. Just one.
That was horrendous.
Out of all of my female patients that and if you're a female in the Navy, good fucking luck. Like good luck. You are stuck on a boat with a bunch of dudes. Yeah.
It's a bad
And
equation.
men get sexually assaulted in the military as well. Like I've had a lot of my older guys that never knew that this was a pervasive thing and thought that they were just the only one. And it's like, I would say probably about half of the men that I have report something happened with someone. And it's usually an officer. You know, for the younger guys, a lot of times it's a female officer. For the older guys, a lot of times it's a male officer. And it's so pervasive there. And these are the people that you expect them to have your back. These are the people that are supposed to stand next to you.
Right. What was that, Billy?
Yeah, the people that are supposed to be taking care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then who do you tell? You know, nobody until 40 years later, you're in a treatment facility.
Man.
So yeah, it is pervasive.
So
That seems fixable, but
Right?
yeah.
Doesn't it?
It seems like we could address that in the military. I don't know. I have no.
Like, by the way,
experience.
please don't rape each other.
Yeah. Stop the raping.
Next bullet point. Like that could be a really quick PowerPoint. You know,
We're gonna do push-ups.
we're gonna do push-ups. We're gonna not rape anybody.
You pick prison over the military. The one thing you got to remember is like, whenever you're in prison or jail, like half the time you're listening to and dealing with people who are kind of like insane. Like, so the whole structure of like prison inmate, like shock collars, roll and run and things, like that's fucking crazy, dude. And like the dude that's in charge is fucking a crazy criminal who's like a drug addict who's just in there wherever he's at mentally in his head. And that's who you have to like,
That's your commanding officer.
that's who has control of you. That's the guy telling you what to do. And so like for that reason alone, like, you know, because we're talking about that happens with rape, like, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of other stuff, like in the military, they're looking out for you and they're like telling you what to do from a place that's like a good place, or at least they're trying to. But in prison, it's like, no, it's not. It's just insane. It's nuts, dude. I don't ever want to go back there. I'm never going back there.
in your just estimate, like out of 100 people that you've met in prison, is there a small portion that you think that they came in pretty normal? They got caught in something bad, just unlucky with the law, and they came in normal, and then they turned bad, or maybe turned bad is not a good term, but they seemed normal and they got worse in jail. Is there?
I think everybody's normal. I mean, just from my from where I come from. But the thing is like whenever you have like lack of like love, and then you start doing crime, and then everybody in your whole community tells you that you're a bad person, and then so you don't have any friends, and so you go make the friends with people who are like doing bad stuff, and then you feel like shit about yourself, and then you start doing like crimes, and you start feeling like more like shit about yourself, and then like the cops start messing with you, and so you hate the cops and you hate society and like you hate yourself, and then you go into prison. I don't think it's more so about like if you're a bad or good person. It's just that like that's who you are. Like you don't love yourself, you don't love other people, you're scared, like you don't think anything's safe, and like you're not like in a good place, like with in your heart and in your head, and those are the kind of decisions you're making, and you're calling the shots.
Yeah.
It's a weird place, dude. It really is. Like,
I think you worded that very well. I poorly worded the question. Is there? So I'm thinking. Okay, so when we're talking about the building blocks of I guess upbringing, so I'm imagining. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm imagining people that get involved in these gang activities or robberies that land them in jail. You're saying them themselves, they, whether you want to call it love, they don't love themselves, or they have a certain, they've been brought up in a way of life that hasn't allowed their mind to be productive in society per se. Is
be
that
a
a
part of anything that they're proud of, or be a part of anything they believe in.
so? Is there would in your time in jail, have you met people where you felt that they seem to have that, but then the non-rehabilitated what's
Really?
better?
How it's not a rehabilitative
yeah.
place.
How it broke them down from where, like
It seems like a slippery slope where if you're
Absolutely.
What's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. People go into jail when they're 18. I've seen kids go into prison when they're like 18, 19 years old for something, and they got like a year or two. And because these older guys that are in prison and tell them what they do, they end up stabbing somebody, and then they get 10 years and they go to the hole, and then they do it again. And they're there for the rest of their lives. And they're 19 and they like stole something from the store or just got too many like violations, and that's why they're in there. Like totally could have been good, but they didn't have a community to be a part of. And so then they came into this situation. Now they have a community, and now they have people that they can look up to, and they're telling them to do this, and so they do it, and then that's a wrap, dude. You're in there for the rest of your life.
Such a waste of a life. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
is there anything that you would suggest that our government should change to make it better? Is there maybe?
Yeah, we got to teach tennis in the lower income schools.
How about that? Let me rephrase that. Is there what would be the most impactful, realistic thing that the government could do
To actually rehabilitate people, to actually have like rehabilitation in prison instead of it being what it is. That's, I mean, simply said, but like complicated to do, but simply said, like actually having environments that aren't like what it is.
Yeah, something that helps you get better and think straight and get back into society, as opposed to getting further deeper into this weird criminal life inside of a prison.
Right, and people are too gone and they're lost. Let's put those people over here, and let's put the 19-year-old kid who just came in, who just had a tough life so far, like somewhere over here, and like not let them hang out and not let these guys tell this guy what to do.
I like that.
That's why we need to bring back the old school institutions.
The old school institutions?
Yeah.
The sanitariums?
Yeah.
I don't know explain that to me.
A sanitarium, what used to be in the old days, is it'd be like a mental hospital.
Yeah.
But if somebody's too crazy, then we don't know what to do with them. We just put them in a sanitarium, which is keep them away from the normal society in this crazy place.
Yeah, because what's the sanitarium now? Prison.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, which is not rehabilitative. Like the issue with the old sanitariums where they were unethical, like people were, like just lying in their own feces and not being treated ethically. But like, are we doing a whole lot better now? Because there are people in our society that, they're born into something with some kind of deficit and they don't have the resources to take care of it. And these are like the kids that I saw in psych hospitals when I was working with kids. Like mom used meth when she was pregnant and now you're just fucked for life.
Yeah. And
so these kids just spend their whole lives in and out of the foster system, in and out of psych hospitals, and they're just going to be using hospitals until they turn 18. They're going to get kicked out on the street and are probably going to be like running around naked, trespassing, stealing some lady's purse and end up in prison.
Well, because their brain is literally...
It's just mush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just mush. And, the criminal justice system is pretty messed up. But yeah, there are other societies that do use an actual like rehabilitation platform, and it's very effective.
Other countries do it better.
Yeah.
I think it's Sweden. I don't want to say for sure because I remember exactly, but I think that it's Sweden. It has like a fantastic whole rehabilitation facility thing where like you go in and like
Yeah.
you have a job, and like they rehabilitate you, and then they slowly integrate you back into society, and their success rate is like huge, and like
Yeah.
makes our recidivism look like you guys are barely doing anything.
Yeah, the prison guards in there they don't have weapons. So it's kind of a funny joke. The prison guards say amongst themselves, like, oh, what are we going to do to the prisoners if they revolt or attack us? Oh, we're just going to talk to them.
Yeah.
I saw a funny meme that somebody's like, "Oh, my retirement is screwed. My plan is to become a criminal in Finland." And they showed a picture of like a Finland jail. It was such a nice.
Yep.
If you had to guess a percentage number, Billy, what percentage of prisoners cannot be helped?
Yeah, are the people that are just too far gone that there's
Yeah.
no possible way for them to be an
I'm going to
normal
answer my question like you answer your question with your Bitcoin cryptocurrency. I'm biased. I think everybody can be helped. I think everybody,
okay.
no matter who it is, and like this is something that I've talked to about a lot of therapists talking about. Like, I'll never work with a child molester. I'll never do it. I just can't do it. It's too heavy for me. I'm like, I don't know if I could, but don't we see value in working with that person so that like won't ever be perpetrated again? Like we put people in jail for 7 years for child molestation, and then we let them go.
Yeah.
And like, there's a therapist out there trying to help them work to like never let it happen again. It's like, yeah, we need people doing that. So like, who are the people too far gone? Like, I mean, I know that I'm biased, but I think everybody, even if like somebody's done something where they should be separated from society, I believe that they still like need a person in their life who is willing to like give it a shot, to be like, let's have a conversation so I can help you live a better quality of life like in here. I think
Beautifully
everybody
said. By chance, when you said
10% all fucked.
I was going to ask you.
Write them off.
That is good.
Send them to an island. This is what Australia was built for.
I was going to basically ask you that, but because also you mentioned earlier that you early in your career that you had to go to the acute psychological facility. So from your perspective, what percentage do you think?
I think everybody as a human being deserves some kind of chance and is helpable to some degree. I think for a lot of people, they choose not to.
The patient, or you mean
The individual.
Okay.
And there's like two different things. So for some people, they're just not capable, whatever physical, biological deficits are going on there, and they're not capable of being an independently functioning person, but that doesn't mean that they don't have value in society. There's this organization in town, Opportunity Village.
Yeah.
You've ever heard of it? Fantastic organization. Basically, they take adults with like cognitive deficits and find things that they can do in ways that they can be productive members of society. And are they fully independent? No, but they're doing something.
Yeah.
Like that's one of my favorite
It's
organizations
doing the best
here in
to
town.
give some meaningful life.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
role.
And like when you have something to do, you have purpose and meaning, you're less likely to go and just like do dumb shit because like, oh, I have meaning, I have something to do. And I think that for people with deficits, there's stuff like that we can do as a society that we don't do a very good job of. I think there are some people who don't want to live to their full capacity and don't want to be a good person. Like if you've ever like had an experience with like a real deal fucking psychopath, like it's interesting. It's interesting to see somebody who like actually enjoys manipulating and harming other people. And I think there are things that are teachable that, like, okay, well, there will be punishments if you continue to do this, but I don't think that person would otherwise conform to societal norms and be a not shitty person if there weren't
Punishments.
repercussions for that. Yeah.
Like sociopath.
Yeah.
With that, so you're saying even with those people, they're somewhat, you could kind of help them. You're kind of saying.
Yeah. I mean, for just anecdotally for the ones that I've worked with, Like I've had a couple where I'm like, wow, you're the real fucking deal. Like you are a psychopath. Providing the education of like, I get that you don't genuinely care about this person, but you're hurting them and there are consequences for you if you continue to hurt that person. Providing the education of making the consequences as such that they will be motivated to not do that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't, my train of thoughts like thinking, is there a way to put a value on the head of people? Not to kill them, but like say
I think
that
there's an industry for that.
say that cycle that or that person that wants to harm somebody else. I don't know the value that if a ambulance has to come to save that person, the cost of cops having to come, there's a value on that person's impact on society.
Are you talking about like the sociopath test? Like, should we just put them out of their misery and not cost so much to society? You kind of are.
Yeah.
Let me put it like this. Let's say this. So let's say that you have like a son or daughter and they turn out to be a sociopath. And that's just what it is. Like mentally, they're in a place where like they don't care about like other people's feelings. They have no care about it. And then somehow, whenever their brains are getting wired as they're growing up, they find enjoyment in other people having pain. And so they go ahead and they do whatever they do, and they do what sociopaths do sometimes, and they like murder people. So like, yeah, like as a society as a whole, it's like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have those people around, and maybe they shouldn't definitely be with other people for sure to protect society. But doesn't that person, your son or daughter, let's look at it as your son or daughter, deserve to have some form of like life where they can have some quality of life separated from society? Because whenever you look at it from like, oh, it's just people, like, yeah, that's separate. But whenever we look at it from like an empathetic, like this is a person. This is a person who's born and they have life. And like, we might not agree with what they do, but like, it's not like really people's faults that they like are sociopaths. That's something that just happens. You don't have empathy for people. You don't care about what other people think or feel. So like, that kind of changes it whenever you use it from like a put yourself in their shoes position. It's like, yeah, I mean, that sucks that they're separated from society, but maybe we should at least like put them somewhere like on an island, you were saying, or whatever, you know what I mean?
On a psychopath island?
Australia.
I was thinking that for homeless people, that we should make a city for homeless people to populate.
That would be every city in the U.S.
San Francisco.
Yeah, but you could.
The issue is that they don't have a city. It's that they don't have a home.
Yeah. So we can make a city like full of underpasses.
I think that's Portland.
Tents. Yeah.
Isn't that Portland?
One big underpass.
So you just make one place and then ship them out. Because wasn't like Texas shipping homeless people to Washington D.C. or something to make?
You know, Nevada got in trouble with that in California.
Yeah, but if we make a fake city for them to be homeless in, then you could just ship them all.
You've said a lot of dumb things, Emmett.
This is the worst.
This is up there.
How's that different than a sanitarium or a psychopath island? Psychopath island was a good idea.
So with psychopaths, you're talking about like innate brain structure, right? Like this is the way that person thinks, and this is not changeable. Like this is pervasive.
Yeah.
This is just something. Homelessness is a condition that happens through circumstances.
Yeah.
The issue is they don't have a home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just give them homes.
But they need like people who do have homes to survive, because they ask people for money and they use the resources that other people need to get by. So if we just gave them like one city, they'd all go there and die because like nobody there that's like successful.
No, we'd send in all these social workers and whoever else wants to help them.
Or we could just, provide housing and then, assistance with jobs through Voc Rehab and put them to work in society.
America's pretty effed up with housing.
Right?
Substance use disorder treatment for most of them.
Yep. For a lot of them.
Our housing is getting unaffordable. We can't be giving away free houses.
Oh, I got a couple vacant hotels.
Yeah.
For the definition of a sociopath, so I imagine I think I understand psychopath. That's just somebody that wants to kill. I'm guessing.
Or do evil.
It's in their brain. They can't change that about them. They want to, or I don't even know if kills actually. They want to harm others.
It's deriving pleasure from harm to others.
And then sociopath. What was that?
From others' pain.
From others going through pain, yeah.
Yeah.
A sociopath, and I've probably been using this wrong now that I hear you guys use it, but I've been even using it for what I thought, like say a CIO, Chief Information Officer, that is going to lay off a bunch of people. And it's, for me being in that department, it was so easy for me to see there's so much value in the people that they're about to lay off. I know they have a budget they're trying to fit in, but the amount of loss that they were actually going to accrue by not doing their research on the good people to keep, they're letting off a bunch of good people too. They could have reallocated, they could have actually given out, they could have probably even did refactoring of salaries and saying, hey, we're going to have to let you go, or here's your option if you want to come back for a different titled position with this pay, it's lower. But I would title that person a sociopath in that position, where it felt like they, in what I was seeing in that person, it seemed like they just had power and they didn't care about anybody else, and they just cared about their profit.
Yeah. Well, and that's looking at the behavior versus like the person. So the sociopath it's like learned psychopathology kind of. So it usually comes through a situational need, and it's hallmarked by that lack of empathy, which is kind of what you're referring to. It's just like, how can you not care about these people? And, for the psychopath, it comes from a place of like, I crave violence, and the sociopath is just like, I don't care because I don't care and I lack empathy. And it's not, I think it's like an overused term, because a lot of behaviors come from a place of logical decisions that don't factor into the human component, but that doesn't mean that this person lacks empathy. A lot of times they feel very bad about what they're doing.
It's just good business.
But it's also their loyalty or their desire to run the company in a way kind of outweighs that feeling bad. So if somebody were to just like pull the trigger on, firing all these people and have zero guilt about it, maybe they are. But these are also like the people that do tend to rise up in these positions of power, because they're not thinking about, oh, how do my actions impact my coworker? I want them to have the same opportunities. They're like, no, I'll step on your neck.
Yeah.
I'll move up.
This specific CIO, he's still in that position. I won't name the other, so I'll try not to name names.
Control yourself.
This CIO wanted to let me go on Christmas Day or the day before Christmas, and my director, he's like, no, the Liem's a good employee. I know you, he said to the CIO, like, I know you need to cut corners, but we could wait till maybe after the new year or something, or even give him a 30-day notice or 60-day notice. Work with the director asked him, the CIO, to work with him. So it was with so many stories that I saw, then I started calling the CIO a sociopath. But hearing your explanation, I think I should be more careful of using the term sociopath.
Well, and also like maybe he had some personal beef with you for no reason. Like, I can't tell you how many supervisors I have that just hate me, and I'm like, whatever, So, and maybe it's because you didn't play the political game, or maybe you said something or something one day.
Racist conversation.
Right? You just walk around being blatantly racist, and they were like, oh, this guy's no good, which would not be, because then they have that emotional attachment to you, which is very anti-sociopath.
Oh. So if it's personal, then they're not a sociopath.
Yeah, that's what we call cluster B personality traits. We don't like them either.
Did you say cluster B? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I've never heard that. Yeah.
What's
cluster B?
No, not yet.
No? Well, I guess they don't really. So personality disorders aren't in the DSM anymore, and they used to be broken down into 3 different personality disorder categories, A, B, and C. And A is like the people that are more like sociopathic, just kind of like the antisocial, kind of standoffish, socially awkward people. Cluster B is what you see a lot in addictions. And this is people that are very emotionally volatile, crave a lot of attention. And these are the people that also tend to have those very strong reactions to somebody that challenges them. So this is where you have like narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. So the people that they need to have that attention from other people, they need to have that constant validation, and they're usually very just
ex-presidents,
right? But also, like, we see this a lot in addiction. For some reason, there's a lot of parallels between cluster B personality traits and the addiction. And my working theory is it comes from a place of just need for fulfillment, because usually these develop when people aren't satisfied as children. Like they're not heard or listened to, so they learn to become more behaviorally explosive.
Then you get attention.
And then you get attention, but you have to keep upping the ante to get the attention that you need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your needs met by being compulsive.
Yeah. Yep.
What's cluster C?
Cluster C is like bizarre.
Oh.
So these are just like weird people. Is where you have like your
like the guy on the street that's trying to play 8 instruments at once.
Yeah, just weird, weird, bizarre. A lot of like kind of so there's schizophrenia as a disorder by category, but there's also some schizophrenia-ish personality
like
disorders.
Schizoaffective.
Yeah, I like your schizotypal and stuff like that. Those are more kind of like personality
Interesting.
issues, and they're just bizarre. Those are the real interesting folks.
Is anybody actually normal? Or are most people normal, or is nobody?
So when we talk about normal, we use the term a lot as like the absence of these things.
Yeah.
And we all have these traits. Like we all have cluster A, B, and C personality traits, but they're usually kind of within a range that is socially acceptable.
Gotcha.
Like most people struggle with depression at some time. Most people struggle with anxiety at some time. Most people have traumatic experiences at some time, but they're like overall within kind of like the big part of the bell curve where that's considered like acceptable in society. So when you get outside of that, or it causes you distress or dysfunction in your daily life, it becomes an issue.
Interesting.
But we're all kind of normal if we're all collected together.
On average?
We all average out together.
Is there? I would be interested to hear kind of prison talk between two psychologists. Like, is there any questions you have to someone that spent time in prison, and or any thoughts that Billy you might have from your time in prison to someone that's has
never been in prison?
Well,
You assume.
I'm thinking a career, a bit of a career dealing with some of the, I don't know, maybe a little bit, just more length of time.
You just want us to have prison chat. We're
Yeah.
going to need our own
I'm
theme
down
song
with
for
that.
this.
You have to timestamp prison chat time.
So is there psychologists in prison? Is there a service for prisoners for to see
Like
a
therapy?
psychologist? Yeah, therapy.
I think it depends on the facility. What was your experience?
Probably, but I never received anything. Like there might be they probably have somebody on the books that goes around and talks to people, but I've never seen anybody as a prisoner. I could have used it, but then again, like how willing was I to talk to somebody? But I don't know, if the right person sat down in front of me, it could have been very helpful. But yeah, not really. So not in my experience. The answer to that question is no.
What are some common misconceptions that you guys might have about prisons? Drop the soap.
How realistic is Orange is the New Black?
Yeah.
Very unrealistic. Whenever those girls are like they're in the choir, right? Like having sex. Is that what's going on there?
There's a lot of sex, yeah.
Should start watching the
That
show.
doesn't happen. That's not a thing. Yeah, it's a little bit more controlled than what's shown there. And then as far as dropping the soap, there seems to be like a lot of same-sex relationships whenever people go to prison for like long periods of time. So whenever you're there for like over 7 years, if you're doing like 10, 15 life, then that's where that happens. So you're going to see that in like level 4, level 3 yards. And that's just the thing. But whenever you're going in, you're doing like a year or 2 or 3, that's not happening.
So you're saying men that are stuck in a area with other men for, if it's on average after 7 years, then it's not so much that they turn gay, they just sexually need.
Yeah, no, you just give up. You're like, I'm not going to I'm in here for life, and so I'm not going to have sex with a woman, and so I might as well just start banging dudes.
Yes. When you acclimate to what's around you, I mean, we still have biological needs to be connected to other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like,
Are
have
they
you ever had like a
meaningful?
coworker that you worked with for a long time, and initially you were never like, but then you just like got to know them so well, and you're like, oh, I kind of like this person, and
Yeah.
like you're going to acclimate to just what's there, and if what's there is just other dudes that you know are doing life with you, like eventually you're going to connect with somebody
is
that
it
would
a
make
romantic
sense.
relationship or is it a
I mean,
rapey-
I'm sure that like if you were to read some memoir somewhere, there's a beautiful story of like a man falling in love with another man in a prison. I'm sure that that's a thing.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's not, right?
Yeah, he wanted a girlfriend, but all the options were not girls.
Or he didn't even think about it and then just went to prison for like 15 years and
Yeah.
somehow fell in love with this dude. And
Soulmate.
yeah, something like that.
Love
All right.
connections. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I never thought of it as being like a genuine romantic relationship of like having like this similar, oh, this is my partner and I love you and I want to cuddle with you. Those are stereotypically,
It's just an idea.
what's that?
Just an idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have needs,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, so if I was in prison, I would think I would masturbate a lot before ever raping somebody or butt sex. And
Probably about 7 years.
yeah, 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
I was maybe
Masturbation
7
sucks.
years, and then it's like, all right, man. No, I'm just saying, I think the 7 years is just because that's kind of like where the difference is and like where they send people. People 7 years or lower in lower levels, and then people with 7 years or more in higher levels. And so you
Yeah.
start getting up there, and then you're in with people who are in for life. And
That's
all that.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, could I have it reduced to 6 years and
Yeah, right.
Can I buy down my sentence?
I was thinking earlier, and I'm just gonna say it, and then if you guys want to add in. So I'm thinking, for someone to land in jail or prison, is it a lengthy road, or is it? I mean, it could be as simple as if I'm carrying marijuana in a non-recreational state that could land me in prison, but do people land in prison for like 7 or 10 years carrying marijuana? I don't. I'm just.
How black are you when this happens?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
So
weird. That's actually what I was going to say.
Oh.
It depends on where you're from, your socioeconomic status, what color you are, the DA in the city that you're in. If the DA in the city that you're in is like, if you're in Alabama and like you're black, like yes, you're going to prison for whatever. And if you're white, then no, you're not. So
my
definitely still a thing.
my train of thought was thinking, so people that are in prison is there a psychological, like, were they not so much that were they bound to be there, but there's something, a lot of stuff happened for them to land there. Is their personality trait?
Like, are you saying is it possible to have one bad night where you made all the wrong choices and that puts you in for a long time?
Yeah, sort of
Absolutely.
like that.
For sure. Yeah, I've seen it a bunch. Like people get DUIs and kill somebody, like total accident or something, or even people who have like gotten like super wasted and like caught their wife cheating on them and like killed their wife or the dude that they were sleeping with. Like, and it just happened and they don't even remember it. And they've never done anything violent in their whole life, or just that kind of stuff happens. For
Or
sure.
maybe almost the reverse of that. Is it 90% of people in prison, are they psychologically kind of predispositioned to be breaking the law? I don't know. I'm just throwing maybe my train of thought is, if someone were to think, well, if you're in prison, something led you there. You have a...
You know what? That's an interesting question. And what I found out, and I don't know about percentages or whatever, but there's a lot of people in prison who are like really smart people and like don't buy into like authority figures and what people tell them because they can see through a lot. And so they decide to make their own decisions. And they make decisions that seem to be at the time the best for them and not what other people tell them to do. because it's not safe. Like sometimes whenever you listen to what other people tell you, what is like the right thing and follow the law, it's not really the safe or the best thing for you. Just because somebody's decided it's best for society, okay, cool, but that doesn't mean that it's best for you at the time.
Yeah, you could tell me not to carry around this stolen gun, but I know people are out there trying to get me.
Right, but I'm living in like Detroit in like 1996, and like it's in the ghetto, and like I either do this or I'm going to be smoked. So yeah, stuff like that. Or in my neighborhood, I either don't eat or I sell crack tonight.
Oh,
and so I'm going to go sell some crack because that's what I have to do to survive, to live. And so that's what I have to do. It doesn't matter if it's a law or not. This is what I need to do.
So almost you're saying more of a socioeconomic, that's
always the issue.
That we're coming full circle from like the beginning.
What it comes back to.
Damn.
Which is why I get mad about the rich getting richer and stealing too much of the money at the top, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's a weird thing to do as well as I do. Like I'm so lucky I have everything. Why do I care what's happening at the top? Because somebody at the bottom gets cheated.
Well, and these things, they do impact us on a whole societal level. I mean, the prisons aren't free, you know? So the same people that are like, oh, we should just, get these people off the streets and put them over here, like you're paying for it.
Yeah. Is it something like 40, 50 grand a year to house a prisoner?
I heard it was like 26 in California, and prisons are for profit, and the taxpayers pay the profit.
26, that's a bargain.
Yeah.
What a steal.
And then going as far as socioeconomic, most of the times whenever you do crime as like doing something in business, you go to federal prison. Federal prison is a cakewalk compared to state prison. So if you're talking about people who get busted for doing stuff that are lower on the socioeconomic status, they're going to
embezzlement.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, but whenever you do something like that, where you come from money and you go to prison, it's nothing compared to it's not the same thing as what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to like day spas.
Exactly. It's like
probably not that great, but we could ask Martha Stewart. She's going to be on your panel, right?
I hope.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a sit down with her and Snoop Dogg. They just seem like best friends. It's so cute. It's like my favorite duo.
Don't they like hang out together?
In my heart of hearts, they do. They just hang out and smoke weed and bake cake and
bake everything else.
And bake all the things and like make pine cone bird feeders and
All right, Billy, you're this is the second time you've been on this podcast?
Yes,
Two-timer.
All right, we're going to do the final question section.
Oh, does he get the punch card?
Recidivist.
Your punch card is full.
I get a free appetizer next time.
Yep.
Really excited.
First question for you, Billy. If I told you to put $5,000 in cryptocurrency as an investment, what questions or thoughts come into mind?
Oh, that's a good one. How is cryptocurrency doing today?
It's on sale.
Not great.
Deep discount?
Deep discount. It's gone down. It's hopefully it's just the roller coaster of cryptocurrency. Hopefully it'll come back up. I believe it will, but I'm biased. I think blockchain is the future.
Yeah, it's just so hard for me. I'm like a gun in a safe kind of guy because that's like where I got just came up, and so I have a safe, and it's just like I can't touch it, and I can't, and so it's just don't really trust it. But yeah, I mean, if you gave me $5,000 and the only thing I could do with it is cryptocurrency, done.
All right, next question. What can you not live without, excluding the obvious? Water, food, health.
What can I not live without? I'm like vacillating between like love and creative expression. It could be interchangeable, but
creative expression, like you play the guitar, make music, and then also surfing.
Hey, or just this. What we did just now was creative expression. We just explored ideas and so gave our viewpoints and.
Also, I'm feeling the love, so bonus.
socializing. And it's the same thing too, kind of sometimes, isn't it? So I don't know. Yeah, those are my two answers for the
That's a very deep answer. I'm like, chapstick. I will die.
Okay,
Cherry flavored.
this next question, I have yet to find a way to word it that's easy to understand. Around what age did you see yourself the most mature? What personality changes were there? What were the factors to cause those changes? Let me know if you want me to re-say the question again.
I saw, and I still do see myself the most mature. I was 17 years old. I went into a drug rehab, and I was there for a year, so I was sober for a year at 17. And I just had like so much hope and like belief in like myself and like confidence, and like I knew that like I wanted to like, and it was kind of like all ideas because I was only 17, but I just had so much like belief and confidence in myself that I could be a good person, live a good life, like get in contact with a lot of people and connect with a lot of people and make a lot of things happen that were good and wholesome. Yeah, it was just that at that time. And then I got out and I started doing drugs again, and now I'm falling apart, but yeah.
Yeah, sounds like you're doing it now, though.
Yeah, I am for sure. That's true.
That's awesome.
Next question. What keeps you up at night? What thoughts do you often ponder about?
Oh, being a parent is so tough, dude. I want like, I don't know, like just, yeah, being a parent. Just, am I doing everything right? Am I doing something wrong? If I'm doing something wrong, like, what is it? Like, how can I do better? And then I also just do that within myself too. Like, I'm introspective and want to make sure that I like reach my full potential and I'm doing things at my full potential. And so I'm very hard at myself whenever I don't do something. If I talk to somebody the wrong way, if I'm rude to somebody and I shouldn't have been, it bums me out. So,
do your brothers have kids, or do you have
my oldest brother has 3 kids, and they're in New Hampshire, and then my Jimmy doesn't have any kids.
Do you ask Jesse about like how his parenting skills or
That's
advice?
so trippy that you just asked me that, because the answer is no. But not yesterday, but the day before, I decided I'm going to start, because he's super busy. He's a lawyer, but he reads emails all the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start having a conversation with him via email, because I missed that relationship anyways. And then I also am finding myself where I need help and advice, and like he might have some insight that I could use. And this is coming on the legs of my dad passing away, so I don't have that conversation going on anymore. And so I'm feeling something missing, and so I'm gonna go ahead and try to do that. So that's cool that you asked that question, because yeah, I just thought about that not yesterday, but the day before.
Yeah, tell Jesse I said hello. Renee, you're an auntie, so out of what you see of being an auntie is it your brother that has a kid?
Oh, I'm like, I'm anti what?
You're an aunt.
No, my brother doesn't have any kids. Just my friends have kids.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
I'm cool auntie in that fashion.
When you hear Billy talk about parenting, what are your thoughts?
So glad I'm not doing it. So glad.
Is that fucked up when you hear other people like?
Not at all. I actually was talking to my friend, and like there's some parents that are like, oh, you gotta have kids because it's like the best thing and like it completes you as a person. And like, yeah, you say that like now because you have a kid, but like imagine if you didn't have a kid, like you'd be so much more freer to do so much more shit. And like I totally get that. So like, yeah, I mean, I love being a parent because I have a kid. And if I was to say I didn't, I'd be a horrible person. But but I totally get it. Like, if not wanting to have a kid, like it's definitely a style cramper.
Yeah. Well, I think some people genuinely do want to be parents, and those are the people that should be parents.
Yeah.
And I think there are some people that like, should actually like have the desire to want to have a kid. That should be qualifier. Ability, parenting skills, those things should all factor in. But there's a lot of people that just like it. I never knew that it was an option. For a while, it was just expected that like this is just what you do, and I think that a lot of people, that's just kind of like this is just your life trajectory. And I think there are a lot of people that like, I love my kids, but would I have rather not had them? Maybe. And that's a very taboo thing to say, but I think for a lot of people, they don't enjoy parenting as much as they thought they would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a trip for me because like now, like if you would do it over again, like no, because I've already done it. But also like for me to get out of that situation that I was in and like turn my life around, I probably wouldn't have done it without a kid. I probably would have just kept doing what I was doing because having somebody rely on me to like make something out of myself, for that to be an impact on them, played so much on my conscience where it was like, dude, you have to do this. You have to figure this out. You can't keep doing this and die like this. So I don't know. For me, it's like a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Sometimes Em and I will just talk about people and their careers. On this podcast, but off the podcast too. I say this thing. I don't know if Emmett catches it or if he thinks it's offensive. I think it's kind of offensive. I sometimes say, if I have some friends or acquaintances that have kids, I kind of write them off when it comes to accomplishing big things in their lives because I know they have a kid. They have to take care of the kid. So I don't like Emmett doesn't have a kid. So if I ask him, hey, do you want to try to do some project recording drones and shotguns? We're going to shoot some drones down with shotguns and it's probably going to take maybe 20 hours to kind of coordinate and do all this. I would probably not ask a parent to be part of that. Maybe something bigger, something that would, if it's like
start a company.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. If I'm starting some software and I think it has some legs, I'm not going to go ask a parent, or at least I would be less likely to ask a parent. I feel like it's mean, but I feel like I'm also respecting their time with their kid.
I think by not asking them, you're not. And you're making the assumption, not that you're the asshole, but yeah, you're saying this is a huge time commitment. And for somebody who is a parent, like they have this magical skill to put another life in front of them and modify what they need to do. And that takes a lot of like other skills that I know I don't have, with like time management and dedication, regardless of motivation. And those are skills that can be transferred to other things as well. Mm-hmm. So you might be missing out on somebody who has something to offer.
No, I usually, maybe I worded that. I think I worded that incorrectly. I will invite them, but yeah. I expect, or I have less expectations of their answers with
like the time commitment.
Yeah,
which is understandable.
Yeah, that's like a real thing.
Yeah,
people with kids like have less freedom to do stuff. Which is the thing. And then, but for me, the trade-off to that was because I had a kid, I was able to experience like being selfless, which I believe I would have done. Like, and now I'm like this person that I am today, like where I want to like evolve out of tribalism, right? And so like that's really cool to me. But like before, I wasn't this person. I recreated myself, and it wasn't until like I had a kid that I was able to do that. But not everybody's like that. Like not everybody was as selfish and self-centered as I was before I had a kid. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
It's like when I bought that 74 Nova, like I regretted it years later. But if I had never done it, I would always have this Nova-shaped hole in my heart that's missing.
Yeah.
To try to make myself not sound as much of an asshole.
Too late. Well, I mean, Emmett's here, so you're good.
You can't win.
I think being a parent must be exceptionally hard. When I see, especially parents that also like, when they're doing other big projects in their lives too, I'm like, how the fuck do you sleep? Where do you have the time? You got a kid and you're doing this other company and that isn't required for me to respect someone or think it's amazing that they have a kid and have a company. If they raise a kid just well, that's an accomplishment.
That's a feat.
That's a fucking huge feat. Because I mean, we talked about earlier how so many people they have a bad childhood from their parents. So,
right.
I'm not trying to discredit parents. I think it's absolutely hard. Yeah,
Don't
But
fuck up
it's
your
not
kids.
hard being a parent. It's hard being a parent and doing it well. That's what's hard about it. Like, there's plenty of parents out there that fucking suck.
yeah.
Should never be parents in the first place. There's a lot of them. But doing it well and like having a conscience and like being like, am I doing this the right way? Should I be doing more? Should I be doing less? Am I being too enabling? That's what's hard. The constantly questioning yourself and like staying up at night and like asking yourself like what you should be doing and making sure you're doing the right things. And the reality is like a lot of people, you know, they don't really have the process. They're just kind of doing whatever. Let's just do it. Yeah, we got some kids. We'll go with it.
Is it the difference between helping your kid with homework or not? You're putting in this extra effort for their development. Is that an indicator of being a good parent and putting in the time?
Oh,
because there's parents that'll take their kids to sports, right, and do the extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or are there bad parents that are just absent and?
I think it has more to do with like your availability as a human to your kid. You know, I mean, you can have your kid do all the activities,
Yeah.
and, you know, help them with their homework. But if they don't understand you as a person, you know, that you're not just this authority figure that feeds them and takes them places, like have conversations. I think that's where like deeper development happens. And like, that's when people have like those good relationships. Like, you know, if you know, you as a father are able to, you know, have the conversation with your kid when they're, you know, old enough and able to handle it, like, hey, let's talk about life fuck ups, you know, and they can actually understand you as a person, that's going to have a lot more impact than, you know, the tuba lessons.
And on even like deeper levels than that, like, yeah, extracurricular is good, but there's a difference between like taking a kid to soccer because you want him to be a soccer player and like getting to know your kid and knowing that like he wants to do dance and like taking him to do dance because that's what he wants to do. Because there's a lot of parents are like, yeah, I'll do this stuff, but I'm going to pick it because I'm a parent and I'm going to do it. And then having like an actual relationship and knowing the individual as an individual and letting them go ahead and make some decisions with you.
Yeah.
Two different ways to parent.
Encouraging them to do things that, you know, pushing them outside of their comfort zone while also finding things that they have interest in and encouraging them to
dancing's
do
a lot
those.
more useful on TikTok these days.
It is.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's the way to go.
Definitely.
do you think it's possible, both you psychologists, that there's a way to make an
Therapist.
I've told him he's not allowed to call us that, but he does it anyway.
an optional test for people to take to see if they would psychologically make good parents? Meaning, do you think that's possible? I'm imagining being a parent, you should be morally sound of some sorts, but that's a gray area. You got to be not too selfish. Then that.
I think there's so much that changes, and you can probably speak to this better than I can, but like there's the idea of parenting, and then there's actually doing it. And I think there's a lot that changes, like the moment that child comes into the world, and you have the physical evidence of like, oh, I'm an actual parent now. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that shifts internally, and also like maybe you have somebody with like sociopathic tendencies, and they might be a great parent depending on what the other parent is like. You know, maybe they fill in some gaps for like the overly emotional parent. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's there's so many factors, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff involved. And I think a lot changes internally when you actually like become the parent. I don't know if that was your experience.
Hard to answer because like there's so many people, and some like they're awesome and they've had good and bad parents. And so it's like, well, just because you're going to be a bad parent, maybe that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a kid. Because I know some awesome people who their parents suck. So I don't know about that like test thing, but because you could not be good, ready to have a kid, and then have a kid, and then that experience, like you rise up to it, you stand up to it, and you're like, no, I'm going to do this, and then that makes you who you are. So I don't know. I would.
Yeah, stop trying to control my reproductive organs, Liem.
Oh no, you definitely no, definitely not for you.
In the beginning, I did say optional. So my silly train of thought was, it's the Myers-Briggs test. I was thinking like if you can make a test that you fill feel strongly about, not strongly about, and then in the end says it would just suggest, oh, we think you would make for a good parent. But anyways,
I've got feedback from peers, and they're like, "You should definitely not." Okay, appreciate that.
All right, next
I
question.
strongly agree. I like changing diapers.
Yeah.
Next question. What inspires you?
Is this for Billy?
Yeah.
What inspires me? I think that like changes constantly, but what inspires me is just like authenticity and like overcoming adversity. Like whenever I see people who, and like it doesn't even have to be like gnarly adversity, just like whatever. Like somebody doesn't feel like going to work, or they're like a little bit sick and they like end up going anyways, and then they end up having like a bad day. And like that's cool because like I'm constantly trying to like do that, to like overcome me like not doing what I need to do. Like, or doing, you know what I mean? Like I want to like just go hang out and like not work and like not go to school anymore and like just go surf all the time and like sell cocaine like one time and make all this money and live in the bushes.
Yay.
It's, you know, but like every day, like I have to like, no, I'm getting up in the morning and I'm gonna like go surfing and then I'm gonna like go to school and I'm gonna do my homework and I'm gonna get A's in all my classes. I'll go to graduate school. I'm gonna go pick up my son. I'm gonna connect with him. I'm gonna take him. And so like whenever people do that and they do it in like cool different ways that I've never seen, it's like, oh, that's cool. Like rad, like a new way to wake up. Like you wake up and you solve a math problem. And then just being like real about it too. Like that's what I meant by the authentic. Cause like, yeah, dude, this sucks and this is fucking hard. Like I didn't want to come to work today, but I did, and I'm here and like, what's up? What are we doing? Because that's life. Like we gotta do shit that we don't want to do, but let's do it, but then also be real about it and like talk about it.
I'm taking out of that as like a finding happiness in oneself sort of, or finding things that you need on the daily. There's something I mentioned to Emmett the other day, and I think it'd be interesting to have a psychological analysis on it. So I went camping a few weeks ago, and there's something in me that I feel like some animal instinct, being out in the wilderness, being there in the trees, seeing greenery, seeing water, the river. Like there's something in my body, my soul. I don't know if it's endorphins or what, but I connect with it. I don't get that here in this concrete jungle, and I feel like I'm missing it. I'm guessing most people, I don't know, maybe it's only 60%, but I'm guessing 60% of people probably need that. There's probably a percentage, I'm guessing like Emmett, because when I tell Emmett that story, he's like, I don't need a river. But I feel like so many people don't listen to their body, and I'm theorizing that's a lot of unhappiness in contemporary society nowadays. What are your guys' thoughts on that? As in, there's probably some inner need that we have, and you're mentioning doing things that make you happy. I feel like we humans aren't doing that in this concrete jungle, and I think it's being convoluted by consumerism, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the capitalist society dismisses the soul of the human, you know, and like there is something intangible that is innate within us that desires certain things to feel whole and feel fulfilled, and that would come in different forms for different people, you know, whether it's like creative expression or connection with nature or connection with people or something like that. But it's like the spiritual aspect kind of that people have that can't be described or can't be met through like physical tangible needs. You know, it's not like I'm starving. It's not like I don't have shelter or safety, but there's some other need that needs to be met.
Yeah, typically I don't like the word spiritual for whatever reason. I think I think of it as a like.
Then you need a different word to substitute.
I think of it as, because when I said endorphins earlier, I was trying to find, there's probably some type of biological change in my brain, my body. When I'm out in the wilderness, there's something connecting me there. Something that I'm thinking from evolutionary, millions of years ago, probably a million years ago, when we were apes and we looked for water, we needed water to survive. And it's different here in this concrete jungle. We're not catching our food. We're not getting the endorphins of catching food, sharing it with the community. We're not seeing bright colored water with our eyes and causing I believe there is scientific research on bright lights and causing is it endorphins? There's a happiness
so would you be
feeling.
happier as a farmer?
No, there is the comfort that we do have, but I'm not saying I need this comfort all the time. And I think if most humans stay here all the time, and then say the 60% that don't realize that they need something else, there's an unhappiness for that 60%. I don't know.
So if you go camping once in a while, is that the cure?
I think people should somehow find that inner happiness. That's all actually what I'm saying. I don't think that everybody needs camping.
Yeah.
But I believe, if I had to guess a number, probably more than 60% probably would benefit from going camping.
I have a comment on that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool what you're talking about. I was gonna say I think that's more of a spiritual question than a psychological question, but you don't like the word spiritual, so I'll say that. That's more of a place of origin question, and that's a psychological question. And I think what you're talking about is whenever you go out there and you connect with nature, like you're genetically predisposed to see that river and be like amongst the trees and be out in the sun and like be like just there with nature, because we've done that for thousands and thousands of years. And our ancestors have found themselves in a state of flow in that environment for thousands of years. Our ancestors have not for thousands of years found themselves in a state of flow in a concrete block, like what you're talking about, within drywall, and they haven't done that. Now we can do that. All four of us have found ourselves in a state of flow where we're just lost in what we're doing and engrossed with it and just in the flow in a modern thing. But we just have, I think we're just more predisposed to do it in that natural environment because it's happened so many more times. And so whenever you go out there, you're just in this spot and it's like, oh wow, like I'm just here, and just me being here kind of puts me in that zone of like, I'm experiencing these things and I'm feeling this like energy in this flow. I think
Is that surfing for you?
Oh, Renee was saying, is that surfing for you?
I think just for me, it's being in the ocean. And then, yeah, for sure. If it's surfing and I'm surfing, and the more critical the wave, the more like in that zone that I am. And then also just like, yeah, I find myself in the zone more places. But yeah, the easiest thing for me to do, just if I have no energy, I'm like, I need to be in the zone. Like I go to the beach or on the ocean and I'm right there.
I have an idea that we're humans are wired to really enjoy greenery and oceans and these beautiful natural things because they're food sources. Like if you were an early human and you were really into rocks and deserts, you probably didn't reproduce as much. So I think people who were excited about nature and water sources probably reproduced more successfully.
It's interesting.
So I think there's probably something hardwired in our brains. But
there is definitely a innate need for a lot of people to connect to things. Yeah. And I think it might differ just depending on like what's going on internally and you know what you find. Like I'm very drawn to water too. Like I'm very at peace with water. Like that's rejuvenating for me. Just, you know, I'm very much a water element kind of person.
Have you spent time around a fish tank? Like
I love fish tanks.
Yeah,
love them.
I used to have a saltwater 75-gallon fish tank, and there was an element of calm. I don't know what it is.
Yep, aquariums, like it's so awesome for me. There used to be at the Mirage behind their check-in desk, they had this massive fish tank.
Nice.
And I would just sit there and stare at them for hours. just stare at this crazy person. Like, are you checking in? And I'm like, I'm watching the fish. But yeah, it's very soothing for me. And I think some people are drawn more into like, the mountains or the woods or.
You can go to the Silverton. It's less weird there.
Silverton's very weird. There's too many white people there.
I was just there yesterday.
There's a lot of white people
They're
there.
all trying to eat the fish.
I went to Bass Pro Shop. Looking into fishing gear, but I think to kind of where you're saying, do I want to be a farmer every day or something? I think it just depends on the person. If they're in a concrete jungle,
or you could be a park ranger and you could have a very modern apartment and life, and
shoot people.
Is that what park rangers do? I thought they were checking you at the gate.
If I had internet, just give me like Starlink internet, I'd probably be okay, maybe. But
you're going hermit mode.
I find that the internet's kind of
you're anti-crowds.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But you're spot on with the flow state thing. Like, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that, like, when I talk about like the soul and spirituality, it's not so much about connecting to a religion, unless that is your way of connecting yourself with the universe or things that are higher than yourself. And flow state is a way to kind of do that. Like, if you have something that you're that connected to and you're that passionate about, that just kind of like takes away the rest of the world, like, that's an amazing place to be. It's actually a different like level within when you're looking at like brain wavelengths. Like, you're actually in what could be considered like a meditative state. And it's a very cool thing. But it's just like when everything else just fades away and you're just doing this one thing.
Well, why does it have to be something higher than myself? Why can't I be the highest thing?
You can, but you're not.
Is that the same thing with like, I enjoy whitewater rafting or I enjoy wakeboarding, and while I'm doing that, I'm engrossed in it.
Yeah.
Is there something more that you're speaking about?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, it can be juggling, it can be playing a musical instrument. For me, it's driving.
Yeah.
Like, I get into flow state if not like on the freeway, but like if I'm racing,
Racetrack,
that's everything else disappears. I have no concept of space or time.
Yeah.
And it's just me and my machine and whatever else is going on that's relevant to that situation. Like, that's like, I think when we talk about like achieving enlightenment or nirvana, like, that's kind of what we're looking for, is just that state of like, it's almost a state of euphoria for some people. Like, just, this is all that matters in my life right now, and it kicks ass.
And for there's, say it's camping. If you don't understand camping, but for me, if it truly makes me happy, like, you don't need to understand it. Then hopefully, if you like whitewater rafting, I may not like it or whatever, then you should just go do that. Try to do that a lot so that you just enjoy life more.
Yeah, I'm not against you camping.
Oh no, is it? The way you question camping, I think. The way you question it, obviously you don't like it, but
I mean, I'm not against it. I think I should like it, but I never go, so I must not like it.
You could try it and then see if you like it.
Well, so I did this. I've done enough camping.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you have tried it and you don't like it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry on the spirituality thing. The reason why I've been disliking that word lately is, for some reason, it comes up with like life coaches and holistic healing and spirituality, where I feel like they're trying to put a word on doing something when they don't have a great scientific explanation for it, which is, I think I'm trying to say I like camping. There's some endorphins or something, but I feel like I'm at least trying to explain it for people to understand, besides using the word spirituality, if that makes sense.
I think that's one of those words that just gets tossed around a lot. And people use that instead of religion when they're talking about like religion-esque things, and they're different.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are different concepts, but they're very closely linked.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, final question.
That's why I said like place.
Oh,
No, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
No.
I was just saying, I think that's why I was saying like place of origin, because it's more speaking to like, you're connecting with like the energy from like which you came, and whenever you get there, you feel right at home and you know it immediately. So it's like, oh, this is like what I'm really doing. So you can kind of explain it that way without getting religious or spiritual at all. Same thing though.
The funny thing with camping, though, there is an aspect that it's a lot of work to get your tent, pack your gear, Liem and I go for 5 to 7 days at a time. So we bring a decent amount of food because we're pigs. So we're eating the whole time. But then we also have this, we enjoy finding places on a river. So we pitch tent somewhere and then we stay the night. And then we'll go drive around and look for a nice spot on the river. And then we bring a small tent and we hang out there for like 6 hours. But it's a lot of work. We bring the portable stove with us. We bring the cooler, and then the amount of driving, hiking to find that spot, the amount of time. And there's an aspect where both of us are starting to go like, damn, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like,
but I think my questions are always targeted at like, okay, so you're bringing all of these things to insulate you from the thing that you're trying to be close to. Like you're bringing the tents and the jackets and everything. And then so I've been to Zion dozens of times, right? I enjoy outdoorsy stuff, but I'd rather stay in a hotel. Like the hotel's easy. I just check in and get this bed and a shower and stuff.
I think Liem needs to get a Jeep.
Jeep man?
yeah, Liem wants one too.
I support this decision. You just drive up to wherever you're going to go and open up the back and pop out the tent and like,
Yeah.
And you can take off the doors and you're closer to the elements.
and it's super cool.
Hopefully someday soon. Last question. Shit, where did the thing?
We can't finish without the last question. We can't let Billy escape without the final.
Final question.
Yeah.
Okay, final question.
Voltron or Godzilla?
What's the best vacation you've been on? And you can't say Voltron or Godzilla. That'd be weird.
It'd be Japan.
Best vacation?
Yeah.
Vacation. What's a vacation? Let's get the definition of that. COVID-19, man. Swear to God, dude, the best thing that ever happened to me. Everybody got weird and everybody started getting all, and I just saw it coming and I just dodged left, came down to Mexico. Been getting like the best ways of my life.
Oh, nice.
Missed me with everything that was going on in society at that time. Just completely checked out. Finished my bachelor's degree. Thank you. Win.
That's awesome.
Nice.
All right.
Vacation from society.
Yeah.
Yes.
A vacation from humankind.
That sounds
Those
great.
humans in Mexico.
All right. Do you have a drink with you? So cheers for the end.
I do.
Billy and
Awesome.
Renee, thanks for spending time with us.
Thanks.
Thank
Cheers.
Love your insights and your experiences. Thanks for sharing your stories.
Thanks for having me, guys. Nice to meet you, Emmett and Renee.
Nice to meet you.